Hearing Jiang Yunyao's words, the hook-nosed man and the others immediately turned to look at her. I was wondering who it was. Don't worry, one definitely won't let you die just like that. It'll be a waste. The hook-nosed man let out a strange laugh. However, there was a hint of cruelty in his eyes as he kept sizing up Jiang Yunyao's body. A trace of anger appeared in Jiang Yunyao's eyes. She shouted coldly, "Aren't you afraid of my ancestors' revenge?" "Your ancestor?" The hook-nosed man suddenly looked up at the sky and laughed as if he had heard an extremely funny joke. "Halasa." Then he stopped laughing and suddenly said in a meaningful tone, "I actually wish that your ancestor can come. This will save me a lot of trouble looking for him." With that, he did not intend to waste his breath on Jiang Yunyao. He ordered the black-robed cultivators beside him to prepare to activate the blood sacrifice array. However, what shocked the hook-nosed man was that after his order was given, the black-robed cultivators beside him did not make a move. This made him frown. He subconsciously turned around. However, what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The auras of the black-robed cultivators behind him suddenly disappeared. Then their bodies fell to the ground. There was a series of bangs as the bodies hit the ground and turned into pools of bloody mess. It was also until this moment that a man and a woman appeared in front of the hook-nosed man. They were Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who had rushed over from the Maple Leaf Market. "Ancestors." Seeing the two of them appear, a hint of joy appeared on Jiang Yunyao's face. The hook-nosed man's expression changed drastically. "Violet Palace." Jiang Chengxuan first nodded at Jiang Yunyao below. Then he looked at the hook-nosed man opposite him, and his expression immediately turned cold. "It's really you stinky rats causing trouble. You can come today, but you can't leave." As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan immediately raised his hand. Instantly, a huge palm formed entirely from dharmic power appeared in midair and slapped down at the hook-nosed man's head. "Elder, elder, save me." The hook-nosed man immediately screamed in fear. A black demonic umbrella instantly flew out from above his head, emitting rolling and evil black clouds. However, as soon as the black clouds came into contact with Jiang Chengxuan's dharmic power, they immediately disappeared like snow meeting a blazing sun. Just as the dharmic power hand was about to land on the hook-nosed man, a blood-colored flag suddenly appeared in the void at the side. Blood-colored fire lotuses instantly shot out from the flag and quickly burned the dharmic power hand, causing it to shrink in size. The hook-nosed man heaved a sigh of relief. He hurriedly turned in the direction where the blood-colored flag had appeared and bowed. "Greetings, Elder Kaihuo." As soon as he finished speaking, an old man in black and red clothes suddenly walked out of the void. The old man's eyes were bloodshot. He first turned his head and looked at the hook-nosed man who was bowing to him. He nodded lightly and said, "You did well." Then he turned to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and sneered. "Two Violet Palace ancestors of the Jiang family. It just so happens that my sacred sect needs 2 Crimson Lotus golems. 111 turn you into 2 golems to work for us." With that, he suddenly raised his old palm. Buzz! At this moment, the blood-colored net in the sky suddenly surged. In an instant, the world under the net was completely isolated from the outside world. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Jiang Yunyao, and the others in the market below all felt that they could no longer absorb any spiritual qi from heaven and earth. At the same time, the blood in their bodies began to boil, showing signs of flying towards the blood-colored net. How come?" Jiang Yunyao and the others were shocked. It was not an exaggeration to say that they only had a little strength left. If they were to face a cultivator of the same level, they might not even be able to withstand a single attack. At that thought, they looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nervously. At this moment, although Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were rather surprised by this change, they did not look flustered at all. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly said calmly, "Are you just going to rely on this? If so, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed." As soon as he finished speaking, a scarlet gourd suddenly appeared in his hand. Then balls of flames suddenly spewed out of the mouth of the gourd. After the flames flew out of the mouth of the gourd, they transformed into various shapes in the air. Firebird, flame snake, crimson crow, and so on. Soon, the blood-colored net began to shake. Boom! At the same time, a seal emitting green light flew out of Shen Ruyan's palm. Immediately, divine lightning mixed with a wood attribute surged out of the seal. With that, the blood-colored net did not just shake slightly. Instead, it began to shake violently. Large amounts of blood mist evaporated under the bombardment of the divine lightning. Seeing this, the expression of the old man, Elder Kaihuo, suddenly changed. He never expected that the two people in front of him were not only unaffected by his blood sacrifice array, but they also displayed such shocking strength. In particular, Shen Ruyan's attack that carried the lightning attribute was a huge threat to demonic cultivators like them. He could not let the situation continue to get worse. At the thought of this, he took out the blood-colored flag that had appeared previously. Blood-colored fire lotuses surged out of the flag again, blocking the attacks of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. At the same time, his gaze turned to the other side of the void. His tone carried a hint of anger as he said, "You lion, how long are you going to hide there? Come out and face the enemy with me." As Elder Kaihuo finished speaking, a woman's laughter suddenly sounded in the void. Soon, an enchanting woman with a graceful figure and a tight black dress appeared in front of everyone. Judging from the aura she emitted, she was also a violet palace cultivator. Moreover, she was holding a black array flag in her hand. She threw the array flag in her hand into the air and shouted, "Rise." In the next moment, the blood sacrifice array that was originally on the verge of collapse slowly stabilized. At the center of the array, a black ghost head pattern gradually condensed. An extremely evil, cold, and violent aura immediately burst out from the ghost head pattern. Seeing this, Elder Kaihuo heaved a sigh of relief, and a smile finally appeared on his face. He and Yu Lion began to quickly chant spells. Immediately, the ghost head pattern in the center of the array began to solidify. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. However, before they could do anything, the ghost head pattern suddenly flashed. In the next moment, a monster that was 30 feet tall and held a steel fork in his hand appeared in front of everyone. Fiendish Golem. Shen Ruyan recognized the monster, and her expression turned very ugly. Elder Kaihuo and Yu Lion were slightly surprised. Yu Lion chuckled, "I didn't expect you to know its name, then you should know how powerful it is. If you don't want to suffer, one advise you to surrender obediently." What's going on?" Yang Chengxuan turned to look at Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan calmed herself down and said to Jiang Chengxuan in a low voice, "Fiendish Golem is an evil creature refined from living violet palace cultivators, along with the blood and resentment of countless mortals. The process is extremely vicious and cruel. Most importantly, unless our single attack exceeds the limit of what it can withstand, it's very difficult for them to be killed." "Is that so?" Yang Chengxuan immediately turned to look at the fiendish golem. The vermilion fire sword in his hand suddenly transformed into hundreds of feet of sword chi that slashed at the fiendish golem. With a boom, a bone-deep scorching sword mark immediately appeared on the fiendish golem's body. Wisps of fire rose from it. However, this situation did not last long. Suddenly, a large amount of evil aura surged out from the fiendish golem's body, accompanied by a sizzling sound. The wound created by the vermilion fire sword healed at a visible speed. "It's true." Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. On the other side, Elder Kaihuo and Yu Lion sneered upon seeing the futile attempt by Jiang Chengxuan. "It's useless. With your cultivation, it's impossible for you to do anything to our sect's guardian golem. Surrender yourself, and let us bring you back to become the new guardian golem of the sacred sect." As they spoke, Elder Kaihuo and Yu Lion did not stay idle. The two of them attacked. Blood-colored fire lotuses flew out of Elder Kaihuo's flag towards Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Yu Lion waved her hand. A black whip instantly turned into a black python that was dozens of feet long. It opened its mouth, wanting to swallow Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan alive. At the same time, the fiendish golem received an order. As it let out a terrifying roar, its body flashed and disappeared on the spot. Swishing. Behind Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the ear-piercing sound of sharp blades cutting through the air could be heard. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were slightly taken aback. The speed and power of the fiendish golem clearly exceeded their expectations. With a clang, Jiang Chengxuan's six-directional pagoda was released and suddenly collided with the steel fork of the fiendish golem. A huge ball of dazzling fire suddenly exploded in the air. Even with Jiang Chengxuan's physical strength, he was actually forced back a few meters. Boom! At the same time, Shen Ruyan's Crimson Dragon Pagoda collided with the attacks of Elder Kai Huo and the others. The hundreds of feet long black python wrapped around the Crimson Dragon Pagoda, wanting to devour it. However, at this moment, a majestic sword aura with 5-colored lightning suddenly descended from the sky. Swish! The black python and the blood-colored flag actually let out a sorrowful wail. Immediately after, countless bolts of lightning instantly enveloped Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion like an ocean. What? Their expressions changed drastically. With little time to think, they immediately released a defensive Dharma treasure to defend. Rumbles, endless streaks of dazzling 5-colored lightning immediately drowned their figures. When the lightning dissipated, there were already many charred marks on Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion's bodies. Boom, boom, boom. On the other side of the battlefield, Jiang Chengxuan and the fiendish golem were engaged in close combat. The black iron rod in Jiang Chengxuan's hand kept colliding with the steel fork of the fiendish golem, emitting a sound that was enough to shatter a huge rock. The two of them fought from the sky to the ground, then from the ground to the sky. The forest around the river market had already been turned into a mess. Broken wood and gravel could be seen everywhere. Most importantly, at this moment, the human and the golem showed no signs of stopping. Both sides were still attacking fiercely. This also shocked Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion. They were both wondering what body-tempering technique Jiang Chengxuan had cultivated to be able to fight their fiendish golem to such an extent. In theory, the fiendish golem had unlimited stamina and recovery ability when facing a Violet Palace cultivator. Ordinary Violet Palace cultivators could not deal any substantial damage to it. Not to mention that the fiendish golem was augmented by the blood sacrifice array. On the other hand, under the effect of the blood sacrifice array, Jiang Chengxuan was unable to absorb spiritual qi from the heavens and earth. Before the two of them could figure out what was going on, Jiang Chengxuan, who was fighting the fiendish golem, suddenly had 2 golden lights in his eyes. Immediately after, he circulated the grand sun meditation to the extreme. A dazzling sun suddenly emitted endless golden light in his sea of consciousness. Jiang Chengxuan's expression was solemn. He stared at the fiendish golem that was charging at him again, and suddenly said coldly, "Let me see how well you can stand this primordial spirit attack." With that, Jiang Chengxuan stretched out his hands and made the gesture of drawing a bow in the air. Buzz! A ripple suddenly shot out and swept across the air. At this moment, be it the fiendish golem, Elder Kai Huo, or Yu Lion in their sea of consciousness, an extremely scorching arrow appeared. This arrow was the primordial spirit attack technique, comprehended by Jiang Chengxuan from the Grand Sun meditation. It was called the Burning Sun Arrow. Roar! As if sensing a threat, the fiendish golem suddenly let out a flustered roar. Immediately after, layers of black fog rose in front of it. It slowly raised the steel fork, ready to block. However, how could a primordial spirit attack be so easy to block? Not only was the Grand Sun meditation that Jiang Chengxuan was cultivating the top-notch spirit refinement technique in the cultivation world, but it was also the nemesis of all kinds of evil things. Therefore, after Jiang Chengxuan shot out the Burning Sun arrow, it was almost unobstructed. The black fog formed in front of the fiendish golem was immediately devoured by the blazing golden light. The steel fork lost all its defensive ability in the face of the golden light. A wisp of scorching light with a brilliant sun slowly entered the space between the fiendish golem's eyebrows. Roar! The fiendish golem immediately let out a painful scream. Then blazing golden light spewed out of its eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and even between its eyebrows. In the blink of an eye, its huge body was covered in endless golden light. Wasting no time, Jiang Chengxuan took out the golden void sword. With a ripping sound, the fiendish golem's entire body was immediately split into 2. Then golden flames rose, reducing the fiendish golem's entire body to ashes. Once a single attack exceeded what the golem could tolerate, it would not be able to recover. Crack! The moment the fiendish golem was killed by Jiang Chengxuan, cracks appeared on the ghost head of the blood sacrifice array above. This made Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion's expressions change drastically. However, before they could react, a bolt of lightning with red and blue lights suddenly entered their vision. It was Shen Ruyan's lightning element divine power, the fire and water divine lightning. Rumble! The terrifying explosion immediately drowned the 2 figures. At the center of the red and blue lightning, Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion's bodies were disintegrating bit by bit. Only when their bodies were obliterated from the surface of the earth did all the rumbles and booms stop. After Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion died, the blood sacrifice array they had set up previously was quickly shattered by Jiang Chengxuan. Oh, there's another fish that slipped through the net. Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan looked into the distance. There, a figure covered in blood was flying with all his might. That person was none other than the hook-nosed man from before. Just now, when Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion were fighting Jiang Chengxua 3N, he thought that this battle was a sure win. He did not expect the outcome to be so disastrous. At this moment, he hated himself for not having 2 more legs. He hated himself even more for not leaving this morning. Even though he had used the blood-burning technique, it was not so easy to escape from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, 2 Violet Palace cultivators. Just as he fled more than 10 kilometers in one breath, he suddenly felt a chill in his chest. Looking down, he saw that the tip of a golden sword had pierced through his chest. Argh! His eyes immediately widened. Then, large amounts of blood suddenly gushed out of his mouth, and his aura quickly disappeared. In the end, he fell to the ground and died. At the same time, the golden void sword returned to Jiang Chengxuan's hand with a storage bag. He and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. Then, the 2 of them went down to the market. Greetings, ancestors. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan coming over, Jiang Yuniao and the Jiang family cultivators went forward excitedly. They witnessed the entire process of the battle. The enemies came well prepared, but in the end, they were still defeated by their 2 ancestors. Are you all right? Jiang Chengxuan glanced at Jiang Yuniao and the others before taking out a batch of healing pills and handing them to Jiang Yuniao. Yuniao, right. Take these healing pills and give one to those who are injured in the river market. Also, when they buy things from us, give them a 30% discount. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Jiang Yuniao immediately said respectfully, yes. She did not expect that her high and mighty ancestor would actually value those low-level qi refinement cultivators. This was a rare thing in the entire cultivation world of Liang Nation. She immediately turned around and said loudly, fellow Taoists, what happened today is a provocation by the demonic sect to the righteous path. Fortunately, the Jiang family's ancestors arrived in time and saved us from a calamity. Thinking that some of you might be injured, he specially gave me a batch of healing pills. If you need it, you come to the Cloud Tai Pavilion to collect 1 healing pill. In addition, from today onwards, for a whole month, anyone who buys items in the Jiang family's shop can enjoy a 30% discount. Hearing Jiang Yuniao's words, the crowd burst into cheers. Clearly, they did not expect such a good thing to happen right after a calamity. They couldn't help but bow in the direction of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and shouted excitedly, thank you, Ancestor Jiang. After that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan lingered around until Liu Linglong and Jane Yunrong arrived. However, before they left, they did not forget to instruct Liu Linglong and the others to screen the people present to see if there were any surviving demonic cultivators. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan returned to the Jiang family. After returning to the Jiang family, the couple took out Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion's storage rings. In their storage rings, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan found an elder token with a red lotus pattern. From this, it could be inferred that in the red lotus branch of the 7 Lotuses demonic sect, anyone who could be an elder was at least a Violet Palace cultivator. The deacon was usually undertaken by a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, just like the hook-nosed man from before. As for the venerable from the red lotus branch, if Jiang Chengxuan was right, this person's cultivation should have reached the golden core realm, or the false core realm at the very least. And this discovery undoubtedly made Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's moods very heavy. One could imagine that the cultivation levels of the other 6 venerables were definitely on equal footing. As for the sect master, his cultivation might have surpassed the golden core. Thinking of this, the couple exchanged glances. At this moment, the communication Jade talismans on their bodies suddenly lit up. And they were shocked to find that the message was actually sent by Hua Menju from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. When they finished reading the message, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked solemn. This was because Hua Menju's message was a call to arms against the 7 Lotuses demonic sect, urging all the cultivators to gather at the Jade Water Sword Pavilion within 3 days upon receiving the message. Otherwise, they would be treated as colluding with the demonic sect. This consequence was too heavy for the forces under the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, including the Jiang family. Therefore, when the couple received Hua Menju's message, they decided to set off at once. However, before that, they still had to make some arrangements and instructions in advance. Wasting no time, the two of them checked the items in Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion's storage rings. They obtained a total of 6 to 7 level 3 Dharma treasures. However, most of these Dharma treasures were demonic treasures that they could not use. They could only wait until they had time to smelt and extract the materials before using them. Next were some medicinal pills, spiritual herbs, precious materials, and so on. Among them, they obtained a spiritual herb called the Fire Green Wood Vine from Yu Lion's storage ring. This spiritual herb was one of the main ingredients for refining the water breakthrough pill. With it, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan only needed to find another spiritual herb called the spiritual echo flower to begin refining the water breakthrough pill. In addition to these things, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan also obtained 2 registers. After browsing through them, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan realized that these 2 registers recorded the names of the subordinates under Elder Kai Huo and Yu Lion. It might be useful for their future action against the 7 Lotuses' demonic sect. After the couple counted the items they had obtained this time, they sent a message to Jiang Rendao and asked him to come to Xunaming Peak. Soon, Jiang Rendao rushed over. Without further ado, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan told him about Hua Menju's message. Hearing it, Jiang Rendao was shocked and asked in surprise, "Granduncle, Grandaunt, the Jade Water Sword Pavilion summoned you urgently. Could it be that?" "Yes." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. "What you are thinking is most likely the case." After a pause, Jiang Chengxuan continued, "However, we won't know the details until we reach the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. While my wife and one are away, we will leave the Jiang family to you." As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan took out a talisman from his body and handed it to Jiang Rendao. "Take this high-grade level 3 golden arrow talisman. You might need it should anything happen." "Granduncle." Jiang Rendao did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to take out such an expensive talisman. Apart from being shocked, he was also very touched that he was trusted by his 2 ancestors. He nodded heavily at the 2 of them. "Don't worry, Granduncle, Grandaunt. I'll definitely protect the family well." "Good." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. After that, the 2 of them did not stay any longer. They left the family and headed to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. At this moment, many cultivators from various sects and families had already gathered in the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. Without exception, they had all received a message. When Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan arrived, Hua Menju was already waiting for them at the mountain gate. Hua Menju stepped forward and said, "Fellow Taoist Jiang and fellow Taoist Shen, you're finally here. Pavilion Master and my Shifu want to see you." "Yes." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were obviously surprised to hear that. Hua Menju continued, "Pavilion Master and my Shifu already know about what happened to the river market. Now follow me to my Shifu's place." With that, Hua Menju led the way towards the cave abode where her Shifu, Gu Yuefeng, was. A moment later, the 3 of them were in front of the cave abode. Hua Menju went in to report before leading the 2 of them into the cave abode. At this moment in Gu Yuefeng's cave abode, Gu Yuefeng and Pavilion Master, Hu Dongbai, were both there. Gu Yuefeng nodded slightly at the couple. Hu Dongbai smiled at the 2 of them and said, "You did well this time. I wonder if you found anything useful on those people." Hearing Hu Dongbai's words, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out the 2 registers and handed them to him. "Senior Hu, we found these 2 registers in the storage rings of the 2 elders from the Red Lotus branch. You and Senior Gu can take a look." Hu Dongbai took the 2 registers from Jiang Chengxuan and looked at them. After that, he handed them to Gu Yuefeng. After the 2 of them scanned through it, a smile appeared on Hu Dongbai's face as he said, "These 2 registers will be of great use to our future calculations." Jiang Chengxuan said, "That's great. May I ask what's the general situation now? What do we need to do next?" This was the question they had been wanting to know before they came. Hu Dongbai replied honestly, "The 7 Lotuses' demonic sect members who are active in the Liang Nation are mainly from the Red Lotus branch. the Yun Nation and Yan Nation, were harassed by the yellow lotus and green lotus branches. At this moment, the three nations had already identified the location of their respective nests after suffering this huge loss. What we need to do next is to attack the nests of the seven lotuses demonic sect in our respective territories on the same day. It had to be said that Hu Dongbai's words revealed a lot of information. Jiang Chengxuan really did not know that only 3 branches of the seven lotuses demonic sect had appeared in the Liang Nation, Yun Nation, and Yan Nation. This would mean that there were 4 other branches, causing trouble in other places. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were curious about what price the golden core sects of the 3 nations paid to find out the nests of the seven lotuses demonic sect. Was Taoist Kun Su who did it? There was also something else confusing here. If there was only one branch of the seven lotuses demonic sect in the territory of their nation, would they need to make such a mountain out of a molehill? Or was there something else they did not know about? Hu Dongbei, who seemed to know what Jiang Chengxuan was puzzled about, turned to look at Gu Yuefeng. Gu Yuefeng nodded at him slightly. Then Hu Dongbei continued to say to the two of them, "Our operation this time is not only targeting that seven lotuses demonic sect." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts skipped a beat, thinking to themselves, then what is the real goal? Before they could ask, Hu Dongbei continued, "To be honest, a branch of the seven lotuses demonic sect doesn't deserve so much of our attention. Our true goal is to use this opportunity to completely eliminate all the demonic cultivators in our territory before the demon beast riot breaks out." True. With their guess confirmed, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but look solemn. They knew very well what Hu Dongbai's words meant. It was not an exaggeration to say that once this matter started, it would probably be a large-scale battle between the righteous and demonic. Fortunately, from the looks of it, the righteous should have an upper hand. "So," Hu Dongbei said again, "what you have to do next is to follow us to the nest of Red Lotus and demolish it. According to the latest information, most of the demonic cultivators in the Liang Nation are already gathered in that place." "I see." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally understood the aim of this operation. They immediately cupped their fists and said, "Yes, we will be at your command." "Good." Hu Dongbei nodded in satisfaction. After that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not stay in Gu Yuefeng's cave abode for long. Soon, under Hua Menju's lead, they arrived at the Jade Water Sword Pavilion's reception peak and temporarily stayed in one of the cave abodes. A few days later, all the sects and families under the Jade Water Sword Pavilion had sent people over. Among them were Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's acquaintances, Huang Yao and Hui Lion from the Misty Cloud Pavilion, Taoist Chang Yuan of the Heavenly Spring Sect, Fan Zi of the Ancient Spiritual Gate, Yang Huifeng of the Yang family, and Yu Changsheng of the Yu family. Yu Changsheng of the Yu family had successfully broken through to the Violet Palace 8 years ago. As for his ancestor Yu Zhenfeng, he passed away 6 years ago. At this moment, Yu Changsheng, Huang Yao, and the others had already walked up to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Yu Changsheng cupped his fists at the two of them extremely politely. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, thank you for killing the 2 elders of the Seven Lotuses demonic sect's Red Lotus branch. You've avenged many of my clansmen who died in their hands. Here, please accept my bow." Then Yu Changsheng bowed to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan without caring what the others thought. His attitude was extremely sincere. This scene attracted the attention of many cultivators who were unaware of what happened. On the other hand, Huang Yao and the other cultivators who were aware did not react much. Firstly, they knew that what Yu Changsheng had said was the truth. Secondly, the Yu family's attachment to the Jiang family over the years was no secret to them. It was not surprising that Yu Changsheng would be so respectful to the Jiang ancestors. At this moment, Huang Yao said, "Fellow Taoists, one believes soon, the Jade Water Sword Pavilion and the Heavenly Yue sect will lead us to the nest of the Red Lotus branch. At that time, there will definitely be a tough battle to fight. As friends who have known each other for many years, one hope we can work together to deal with the enemies and dangers that might come. What do you think?" At this point, Huang Yao's beautiful eyes swept across the others present. Everyone, including Jiang Chengxuan and his wife, had no objections. Just as everyone was talking to each other, 2 extremely powerful spiritual pressures suddenly approached from the distant sky. Everyone's expression turned serious. From the powerful spiritual pressure, they could tell that it must be the two golden core of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. When the two powerful spiritual pressures materialized, everyone immediately recognized them. It was the current pavilion master of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Hu Dongbei, as well as the supreme elder of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Gu Yuefeng, who was known as the Invincible Sword. Greetings, Golden Core seniors. Everyone present immediately bowed to the two Golden Core. Gu Yuefeng did not say anything. Hu Dongbei waved his hand gently, indicating for everyone to rise. Then he looked at everyone and slowly said, "Everyone, one believe you know why one called you over this time. That's right. We want to completely eliminate the demonic cultivators in the Liang Nation prior to the breakout of the Demon Beast Riot. We have already joined forces with the Heavenly Yue sect and the independent cultivators. Next, if you have no objections, let's set off." As Hu Dongbei finished speaking, several huge treasure ships suddenly appeared above everyone's heads. Every treasure ship had reached high-grade level 3. In particular, the treasure ship in the lead had reached level 4. Everyone board the ship. Hu Dongbei looked at everyone and said calmly. Hearing his words, the cultivators of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion were the first to accept the order. Multiple streaks of light soared into the sky and landed on the treasure ships. Seeing this, the cultivators from the other sects and families did not hesitate anymore. They soared into the sky and flew towards the treasure ships. Soon, the level 4 treasure ship in the lead started. It turned into a stream of light and shot into the distant sky. After that, the level 3 high-grade treasure ships followed. A day later, the treasure ships carrying all the participants of this operation stopped above a vast plain. This was a relatively barren area of Liang Nation, inhabited by a very few. Jiang Chengshuan and the others were a little curious as to why they stopped here. Could it be that the nest of the demonic sect was here? As these thoughts flashed through their minds, they saw several treasure ships flying over from the sky far away. The one in the lead was also a level 4 treasure ship. They were surprised for a moment before they quickly recognized the treasure ships. The ships should be carrying the cultivators of the Heavenly Yue sect and the forces under it. They were led by a man and a woman. Both of them exuded spiritual pressure at the same level as Hu Dongbei and Gu Yuefeng. They were the two golden core of the Heavenly Yue sect. The man was called Li Mingkang, and he was wearing a green robe. The woman was called Wen Shujun. She wore a colorful dress and looked noble and dignified. At this moment, the golden core cultivators of both sides finally met. Hu Dongbei smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Li, Fairy Wen, it's been a long time. The two of you are still as magnificent as before." As a response, Wen Shujun only nodded slightly. On the other hand, Li Mingkang chuckled. "Pavilion Master Hu, you're too polite. From the density of your aura, your cultivation should have advanced greatly. Congratulations." The two of them exchanged some pleasantries before Hu Dongbei said, "By the way, fellow Taoist Li, do you know when fellow Taoist Kun Su and fellow Taoist Hai Jin will arrive?" The fellow Taoist Kun Su that Hu Dongbei was talking about was the independent cultivator of the Liang Nation, who was proficient in calculation and divination. As for fellow Taoist Hai Jin, he was also a famous independent golden core cultivator proficient in trapping and restraining methods. He was also one of the people indispensable to their operation this time. At this moment, Li Mingkang was about to answer Hu Dongbei when dozens of light streaks suddenly flew over from the sky in the distance. They were led by Taoist Kun Su and Taoist Hai Jin. The former was dressed in a scholarly robe and looked elegant. The latter looked like a white-haired old man with two array flags crossed on his back. As for the people behind them, they were some disciples under their name. When the two sides met, they would naturally exchange pleasantries first. At this moment, Taoist Kun Su said, "Everyone, the Red Lotus Demon Cave we're going to this time should have a large amount of demonic qi. This demonic qi will be rather polluting to the true essence, dharmic power, and bodies of ordinary cultivators. If exposed to it for too long, your mind will be corrupted, especially so for the low-level cultivators. Therefore, I suggest that cultivators below the foundation establishment remain outside the demon cave. What do you think?" Hu Dongbei, Li Mingkang, and Taoist Hai Jin agreed unanimously. After that, they did not waste any more time. They immediately flew in the direction of the Red Lotus Demon Cave. With the speed of high-grade treasure ships, it did not take long for the three parties to arrive above a seemingly ordinary valley. Yang Chengxuan and the others roughly scanned the area with their divine senses. Huang Yao, Yu Chengsheng, and the other Violet Palace cultivators did not notice anything unusual here. However, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, whose soul was infinitely close to the primordial spirit, felt that something was wrong in this seemingly ordinary valley. Shen Ruyan sent a voice transmission to Jiang Chengxuan. "Husband, there's a level 4 concealment array here that can even fool the eyes of a golden core." A level 4 concealment array. Jiang Chengxuan was slightly shocked because he didn't sense any trace of such an array existing anywhere in the surrounding area. As he thought, a light suddenly lit up in the depths of his pupils. It was the heavenly eye of insight. In an instant, the surroundings that were originally quite normal to him suddenly became filled with dense demonic qi, especially in an area about a few miles away from them. There was also a large amount of terrifying demonic qi wreaking havoc. Could that place be where the demonic cultivators were hiding? Just as this thought flashed through his mind, he saw Taoist Kun Su and Taoist Haizhen suddenly make a move at the same time. Taoist Kun Su threw out a few array discs. As for Taoist Haizhen, he formed a seal with both hands, turning the crossed array flags behind him into a huge flag that covered the sky. On the huge flag, mysterious runes suddenly flew out and formed a huge circular pattern with the array discs that Taoist Kun Su threw out. Buzz! In an instant, strange tadpole-like runes suddenly flashed out on the circular pattern. They were heading to the place filled with demonic qi. "Break!" Taoist Haizhen suddenly shouted. In an instant, ripples suddenly spread out from the calm voice. At first, the ripples were not very intense. However, as time passed, the ripples surged like a tsunami. Crack! Everyone suddenly heard a sound like glass shattering. Then, in the blink of an eye, the originally normal surrounding turned into a terrifying scene replete with thick demonic qi and howling ghastly wind. At the sight of this hellish scene, everyone retreated a few steps in fear. At this moment, Hu Dambai and the other 6 golden core cultivators suddenly rose to the sky. Hu Dambai said, "Everyone, this is the nest of the Red Lotus branch. It is also where many demonic cultivators of the Liang nation are staying. In order to avoid being flank attacked during the demon beast riot, we have to eliminate all the demonic cultivators here." Hadayahasa. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, a burst of wild laughter suddenly sounded. "Hu Dambai, are you planning to use these people as cannon fodder this time to weaken my strength? Everyone, one have to remind you not to be used by these golden core sects. When you die and your family and sect is destroyed, these golden core sects will not care about you." These provocative words caused some of the cultivators who came with Hu Dambai and the others to waver. However, at this moment, Wen Shujin, who was among the 6 golden core, snorted coldly. "How dare you undermine the morale of our army? Come out, you sneaky rat." As soon as she finished speaking, a blue ice flower suddenly lit up in her palm. The ice flower spun rapidly. In the blink of an eye, countless blue lights covered an area of dozens of kilometers. At this moment, a blurry figure flashed and disappeared from the entrance of the Red Lotus Demon Cave. "Halata, Fairy Wen truly lives up to your name as Ice Fairy, and your ice condensation flower is worthy of its reputation. But if you want to keep me here, that's far from enough." HMPH. Not long after that, laughter trailed off. A terrifying blue-colored pillar of light rumbled as it descended at the entrance of the cave. Crack! Under the impact of this blue-colored pillar of light, the surrounding demonic qi turned into gorgeous blue ice crystals. Then there was a series of shattering sounds. Soon, the blue ice crystals turned into piles of powder and disappeared without a trace. It was only at this moment that many cultivators present became clear-headed. Influenced by the words of Demon Sun, the thought of quitting this operation had appeared in the minds of many cultivators, but slowly, this thought disappeared as the demonic qi thinned. Clearly, Demon Sun's words were not only provocative, but they also carried some kind of demonic dharmic power, causing those who heard it to subconsciously believe him. "Everyone." At this moment, Hu Dambai suddenly spoke. "I've already promised you before, but now I will promise you again. If any of you unfortunately died here, we would compensate your family, sect, or descendants accordingly. In addition, after this battle, you can exchange for the treasures with the contribution points you obtained in this battle. But, at this point, Hu Dongbai's tone was filled with killing intent. If anyone dares to disobey orders, escape, or even betray us, not only will you die in my hands, but your family, sect, and even your descendants will also be punished. I hope everyone will remember my words now. Don't make a mistake. After saying that, Hu Dongbai and the others did not say anything else. As arranged, everyone took the Crimson Sun pill that had been given to them to ward off the thick demonic qi here. All the qi refinement cultivators stayed behind to wait for further orders. All the cultivators above the foundation establishment followed Hu Dongbai and the other 6 golden core cultivators into the Red Lotus Demon Cave. As soon as the group entered the Demon Cave, they were assaulted by a gust of demonic qi. The cultivators of the righteous path, this demonic qi was undoubtedly a poison. They would imperceptibly pollute your body, true essence, dharmic power, and even your soul. In serious cases, it might even change your temperament, causing you to unknowingly have an uncontrollable desire to kill. Fortunately, everyone had taken the Crimson Sun pill before entering. This pill was the best item to ward off evil. However, a Crimson Sun pill could not last long. Therefore, all the cultivators who came in had a bottle of Crimson Sun pills as backup. Once they felt that the medicinal effect of the Crimson Sun pill was wearing off, they needed to take another one immediately. In such an environment, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that the surrounding demonic qi was trying to break through the protection formed by the Crimson Sun pill around you and pollute your dharmic power, body, and even soul. At this moment, a system notification suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. Achievement mission issued. Host, please complete 100 attempts to resist the demonic qi. Current progress, 0%. 1%, 2%, 3%. Hearing the system's notification, Jiang Chengxuan was caught off guard. Obviously, he did not expect the system to give him such a mission under such circumstances. With the Crimson Sun pill, this mission could be achieved effortlessly. However, Jiang Chengxuan quickly sensed that something was wrong. Not long after this mission appeared, the medicinal effect of the Crimson Sun pill was wearing off much quicker than before. One pill could last about 2 to 4 hours for someone else, but for him, it could only last 20 minutes. This decrease was quite significant. Moreover, as time passed, the rate of consumption was still increasing. Jiang Chengxuan roughly estimated that under such circumstances, the effect of a Crimson Sun pill on him would probably last less than 8 minutes. As expected, about 8 minutes later, the effect of the Crimson Sun pill he had taken previously had completely disappeared. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel an aura filled with evil, cold, and malice starting to creep up his body and devour him. In his mind, the scenes of mounds of skeletons, corpses, and all kinds of cruel scenes appeared. Even the circulation of the dharmic power in his body became slightly sluggish. If this state continued for too long, it would have a huge negative impact on his consciousness. At this moment where a tough battle was ahead of him, this huge negative impact would definitely cause a huge decrease in their combat strength. He looked at his mission progress to find that it had already reached 23%. In other words, the effect of a Crimson Sun pill could help him complete about a quarter of the mission. According to this situation, after he completed the system's mission, he should still have 2 to 3 Crimson Sun pills left. Hopefully, the reward this time will give me the ability to resist the demonic qi. As he thought, Jiang Chengxuan took out another Crimson Sun pill and swallowed it. At this moment, the group had already gone quite a distance into this demon cave. However, what puzzled everyone was that they did not see a single demonic cultivator along the way. What is going on? Could it be that they were all hiding? Or could it be that they were stalling for time until all their Crimson Sun pills were consumed before making a move? This was very possible. After all, they were playing an away game. The longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. Hu Dongbai, Li Mingkong, Taoist Kun Su, and the others who were in the lead clearly realized this problem. Taoist Kun Su suddenly took out an array disc from his body and started to cast a spell. Immediately, a dazzling beam of light rose from the array disc. The beam of light pointed in a certain direction. Taoist Kun Su said, "Everyone, if I'm not wrong, those rats should be hiding there." With that, Taoist Kun Su led the way and flew in the direction the light was pointing. When the others saw this, they immediately followed. Boom! Just as everyone arrived at the location of the beam light, a blast of surging demonic fire suddenly exploded. The dark demonic fire instantly swept past the bodies of the two early-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. Two miserable cries sounded as their bodies were quickly engulfed in the demonic fire. Then everyone was shocked to discover that after the demonic fire devoured the bodies of the two Foundation establishment cultivators, it seemed to have become bigger. Li Mingkong's expression changed drastically. Not good, this is the life-devouring demonic fire. Everyone, don't let it get close to you. With that, Li Mingkong raised his hand, bringing out an aqua-blue gourd. Then blue water gushed out of the aqua-blue gourd. When the water and fire collided, thick smoke immediately rose. Following a series of sizzling sounds, Hu Dongbai, Wen Shujun, Taoist Hai Zhen, and the others all made a move. In an instant, all kinds of sword lights, saber lights, spear shadows, and colorful spells aimed at the life-devouring demonic fire. Under this combined attack, the life-devouring demonic fire was quickly extinguished. It was also at this moment that hundreds and thousands of demonic cultivators finally appeared in everyone's divine sense. The cultivation levels of these demonic cultivators ranged from chi refinement to the Violet Palace. However, there were no signs of the golden core yet. Even the demon sun who had appeared outside earlier was nowhere to be seen. Hu Dongbai realized that this might be the tactic by the high-level demonic cultivators to stall for time and exhaust their strength. Using these demonic cultivators below the golden core as cannon fodder could deplete some of their dharmic power. As for why these demonic cultivators below the golden core were willing to die, the answer was very simple. They must have been cast with a restriction. Once they disobeyed or resisted, what awaited them was definitely death. Between instant death and possible chance of survival, what would they choose? The answer was self-evident. Therefore, when the cultivators of both sides broke out in a fight, the fight quickly escalated into an all-out war. All kinds of Dharma artifacts, Dharma treasures, and spells kept lighting up this dark space. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others were also involved in a fight with several Violet Palace demonic cultivators. A gray-robed demonic cultivator and a red-haired demonic cultivator had even reached the late stage. The red-haired demonic cultivator was lashing out crazily at Huang Yao and the others, giving them a lot of pressure. Soon they were at a disadvantage. In midair, a blood-colored saber slashed down, causing them to retreat continuously. They almost couldn't stabilize themselves. At the same time, against Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, the gray-robed demonic cultivator was also merciless. He raised his hand and waved. In midair, a scythe-shaped Dharma treasure suddenly split into countless scythe shadows and slashed at the couple's heads. Beside him, two other early-stage Violet Palace demonic cultivators also activated the Dharma treasures in their hands to interfere with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. The couple was not particularly flustered. Shen Ruyan waved her hand casually. Clouds floated out of the defensive Dharma treasure, the heavenly light umbrella, and instantly blocked the attacks of the two early-stage Violet Palace demonic cultivators. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan took out his black metal rod and collided with the scythe Dharma treasure. Technique I. Boom, boom, boom. A blinding flames burst out in the air. The expression of the gray-robed demonic cultivator, who was originally smiling sinisterly, suddenly froze. This was because, at this moment, he suddenly felt a terrifying strength being exerted on the black metal rod. Under the impact of this irresistible strength, he was forced to take a few steps back. How is this possible? A trace of shock flashed across the gray-robed demonic cultivator's face. In the next moment, he slapped the top of his head. A black light flew out from his head and attacked Jiang Chengxuan. That black light was one of his trump cards, a level 3 divine power, the demonic light of the malicious ghost. It was also an extremely rare soul attack divine power. Once a cultivator was hit, they would instantly be flooded with all kinds of evil thoughts. At best, their consciousness would shut down temporarily. At worst, their thoughts would become chaotic and they would eventually become retarded. At this moment, the gray-robed demonic cultivator wanted to use this divine power to affect Jiang Chengxuan's consciousness and take the opportunity to kill him. Unfortunately, with the Grand Sun meditation, Jiang Chengxuan was least afraid of divine powers and spells that targeted the soul. Any attack on the soul or the primordial spirit would be very difficult to work on him. Not to mention that in the depths of his sea of consciousness, there was a primordial spirit treasure, the vast heaven divine Jade. Therefore, when he sensed that the black light was a divine power specially targeting the soul, he did not even dodge and allowed the black light to enter his body. Seeing that the black light had entered Jiang Chengshuan's body, the gray-robed man was overjoyed. At that moment, he increased the circulation of his dharmic power, causing the gray light on the scythe-shaped dharma treasure to become brighter. Die! The gray-robed demonic cultivator roared. The scythe-shaped dharma treasure that was originally trembling erupted with an extremely powerful might, as if it wanted to cut Jiang Chengshuan in half. Clang! However, what shocked the gray-robed demonic cultivator was that, after he erupted with all his strength, the outcome he expected did not happen. On the contrary, at this moment, he suddenly felt a stronger strength coming from the black metal rod through his scythe dharma treasure. Immediately, he staggered back more than 10 steps back in the air. Before he could completely stabilize himself, a huge rod shadow that was 100 feet long suddenly slashed down at his head. How is this possible? A look of disbelief immediately appeared in the gray-robed demonic cultivator's eyes. He could not understand why Xianxia Audiobook was not affected at all, even though he had clearly been hit by the demonic light. This did not make sense at all. Unfortunately, he was destined not to get an answer. The moment the gray-robed demonic cultivator staggered back, an invisible sword light appeared in front of him. The gray-robed demonic cultivator's heart skipped a beat. He had no time to think. A black shield was immediately summoned to block the sword light. There was a bang. The black shield was instantly sent flying by the invisible sword light. Then, the mid-grade level 3 golden void sword materialized in the vision of the gray-robed demonic cultivator. Under his shocked gaze, it broke his protective dharmic power and cut him into two, along with the armor he was wearing. This unexpected turn of event caught the other two early-stage Violet Palace demonic cultivators off guard. However, before they could do anything, Shen Ruyan's second intrinsic dharma treasure, the Falling Thunder Heavenly Seal, had already sent out endless lightning. In just a moment, the two early-stage Violet Palace demonic cultivators were completely blasted into pieces. From then on, the battle on their side had been cleared. At the same time, Huang Yao and the others, who were fighting the red-haired demonic cultivator, had fallen into a dangerously disadvantageous situation because they were also attacked by 3 Violet Palace demonic cultivators from behind. Seeing this, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan naturally wouldn't stand by and do nothing. The couple immediately went to their rescue. In an instant, the sword light and lightning lashed out at the red-haired demonic cultivator and the others at the same time. This shocked the red-haired demonic cultivator and the others who were about to kill Huang Yao and the others. Just now, they had placed all their attention on Huang Yao and didn't realize that the gray-robed demonic cultivator was already dead. When they saw Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan appear, they were shocked and alarmed. Clearly, they were not fools. They knew very well what the couple's appearance meant. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan would not waste their breath. The couple attacked the red-haired demonic cultivator from the left and right. A series of rumbles sounded. Facing the combined attack of Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan, the red-haired demonic cultivator at the 7th level of the Violet Palace was quickly cornered. Technique 2. The instant the red-haired demonic cultivator realized that he was losing terribly, he decisively burned the blood in his body, and his entire body transformed into a wisp of blood light that flew away. Seeing this, Shen Ruyan snorted. Dazzling lightning suddenly rose around her. However, before she needed to release the lightning, the escaping red-haired demonic cultivator suddenly let out a miserable scream. Then, a dazzling and magnificent colorful sword light suddenly flashed past his body and instantly turned him into a bloody mess. It was only at this moment that Jiang Chengshuan and the others saw clearly what had just happened. It turned out that the person who had just killed the red-haired demonic cultivator with a single strike was actually the elder of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Hua Menju. At this moment, she had come to their aid. Soon, together with Huang Yao and the others, they killed the remaining Violet Palace demonic cultivators. Hua Menju turned to look at Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan. Do you feel that the density and quantity of the demonic qi in this place seemed to be increasing? Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan and others suddenly held their breath as they sensed their surroundings. Then their expressions changed. The quantity and density of the demonic qi in this place was really increasing. What is going on? The few of them could not help but look at Hua Minju. Hua Minju knew what they wanted to ask. She said with a shake of her head, "I don't know exactly what happened. However, one know that given the current situation, we don't have much time left. We have to deal with those demonic cultivators as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the Crimson Sun pills run out, we will be at a very disadvantageous situation." Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Huang Yao all agreed with her. However, it was clearly easier said than done. Cleaning all of the demonic cultivators in a short period of time was not an easy task. Hua Minju took out many array flags from her body and handed them to Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Before we came, Shifu and the others had already expected this situation. Therefore, they prepared these array flags in advance. In a while, we will use our dharmic power to activate them. At that time, we should be able to severely injure those demonic cultivators. Hearing Hua Minju's words, everyone turned to look at the array flags. They discovered that the surface of these array flags was engraved with extremely profound fire runes. One could faintly sense an extremely surging force from within. When refining these array flags, the array master must have put in a lot of effort. Boom! At this moment, a huge flaming snake suddenly soared in a direction far away, emitting an extremely terrifying aura. A few demonic cultivators closest to it could not react in time, and were immediately swallowed by the flames erupting around the huge snake. Jiang Chengxuan and the others saw that the ones who summoned the huge flaming snake were their fellow cultivators. In their hands, without exception, they were all holding array flags similar to the one Jiang Chengxuan had just received. That's the 7-star flaming snake array. Fellow Taoists, there's no time to lose, let's do it, Hua Minju said to Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Then she took the lead to walk up to the group of demonic cultivators not far away. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan and the others did not hesitate and followed. Soon they were near the demonic cultivators. It was at this moment that Hua Minju's voice suddenly sounded in their ears. "Fellow Taoists, now is the time, attack." Buzz! In an instant, the array flag in Hua Minju's hand was activated. Jiang Chengxuan and the others followed suit. Just as Hua Minju activated the array flag in her hand, the array flags in their hands also lit up. Boom! On the ground, the outline of a huge array suddenly formed, and a burning ring of fire slowly rose to midair. Then a huge fire dragon rushed out. With just one strike, the demonic cultivators who had yet to react were instantly reduced to nothingness. Then the fire dragon wreaked havoc. All the demonic cultivators in its range were burned to ashes by the blazing flames it spat out. It was not an exaggeration to say that in this wave of attack, dozens of demonic cultivators died at the hands of this fire dragon. In other places, similar fire beasts were summoned in the same manner. For a moment, the screams of the demonic cultivators echoed throughout this space. Many cultivators were amazed by such a powerful and terrifying method. Was this the foundation of the Golden Core sect? Ding! At this moment, a system notification suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. "Congratulations, host. You have completed 100 attempts to resist demonic qi. You have obtained demonic qi resistance +1. Demon suppressing fist technique. Demonic qi resistance +1 can allow you to resist the invasion of all demonic qi below the nascent soul realm. Demon suppressing fist technique, an absolute offensive technique that can only be cultivated with a corresponding body tempering technique. It has an absolute suppression and restraining effect on demonic cultivators, ghosts, and evil techniques." Ding! Detected that the host's body tempering technique meets the cultivation conditions of the demon suppressing fist technique. Do you want to cultivate it immediately? Yes, no. Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate much and immediately replied in his mind, yes. What followed that was a flood of information, with various scenes surging into his mind. Accompanied by this, his comprehension of the demon-suppressing Emperor Dao fist increased rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he had completely grasped the first level of this technique. With a punch, he could already release a strength fetal to a Violet Palace demonic cultivator. If he wanted to continue cultivating this fist technique, he had to increase his body tempering technique first. Now was the time to test it out. Yang Chengxuan's figure suddenly flashed. The next moment he appeared, he was already in front of a demonic cultivator at the 5th level of the Violet Palace. Yang Chengxuan's aura suddenly soared. With just a punch, he sent a demonic Dharma treasure slashed out by the demonic cultivator in front of him flying. After throwing out a punch, the power of his fist did not decrease at all. Under the demonic cultivator's stunned gaze, he shattered his protective shield. There was a loud bang. The demonic cultivator was sent flying like an arrow leaving the bow. A large amount of blood gushed out of his mouth, leaving a trail of blood on the ground. How is this possible? The demonic cultivator was dumbfounded beyond words. Die. Yang Chengxuan did not give the demonic cultivator a chance to speak. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Chengxuan had already thrown hundreds of punches at him. As the last bang ended, the demonic cultivator had already been turned into a bloody mist in the air. This scene attracted the attention of almost everyone present, including Shen Ruyan, who was watching with her mouth slightly agape in surprise. She did not expect the fist technique that her husband had just used to be so powerful against demonic cultivators. Even Hu Dongbei, Gu Yuefeng, and the others nodded approvingly at the fist technique that Jiang Chengxuan had just used. This fist technique seemed to have a special restraining effect on demonic cultivators. Suddenly, 6 golden core cultivators frowned at the same time and looked into the distance. There several extremely powerful auras were approaching. They finally can't sit still. Hu Dongbei and the others nodded at each other. In the next moment, they did not hold back at all and faced the approaching streaks of light head-on. Jiang Chengxuan, who had just killed a 7th-level Violet Palace demonic cultivator, suddenly narrowed his eyes. The couple couldn't help but look at each other and had the same thought in mind. Golden core demonic cultivators, they are finally here. At this moment, everyone automatically retreated dozens of kilometers. They did not want to get too involved in a battle between golden core cultivators. If they weren't careful, even if it was just a wave of aftershock, it might still seriously injure them. Hua Minju, Huang Yao, Hui Lion, Yu Qingsheng, Daoist Cheng Yuan, and the others also retreated to a safe area. At this moment, the figure of a man with red eyebrows and red hair, and a blood-colored flame around him, suddenly materialized in midair in front of Hu Dongbei and the others. Jade Water Sword Pavilion, Heavenly Yue Sect Mount Kungsu, Taoist Haizhen. Good, very good. This person was the venerable of the Red Lotus branch of the 7 Lotuses demonic sect. He continued coldly, "How dare you transgress my sacred land? Let me see what you're capable of." As soon as he finished speaking, the Red Lotus venerable attacked first. He put his palms together. A blood-colored lotus suddenly condensed in front of him. Then the lotus split into 2, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8. In the blink of an eye, there were 8 lotuses. A demonic red flame suddenly rose from it. With a terrifying might that could burn everything, it instantly flew towards Hu Dongbei and the others. Buzz! At the same time, when Shujun tapped her jade-like fingertip in the air, an ice-blue flower also took shape out of the void. Following that, the ice-blue flower split into 8 in the blink of an eye. With an extremely cold aura, it collided fiercely with the 8 blood-colored lotuses. "Leave him to me." It was also at this moment that Wen Shujun's cold voice entered everyone's hearts. The rest of the golden core cultivators did not stay idle. They quickly found their opponents and fought. Boom, boom, boom. The power created by the collision of their Dharma treasures was more than 10 times greater than that of Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Especially Gu Yuefeng and a man with incomparably sinister eyes. The battle between the two of them was most intense. One could imagine how terrifying their strength was. Arg! At this moment, Demon Sun, who was outside the demon cave earlier, suddenly let out a scream. Jiang Chengxuan and the others immediately turned around. Over there, one of Demon Sun's arms was cut off by the Jade Water Sword Pavilion's pavilion master, Hu Dongbei. This surprised many people, especially the golden cores who were still engaged in a fight. They did not expect that the pavilion master of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, who broke through to the golden core less than 100 years ago, could already burst out with such strength. Facing an experienced golden core cultivator who specialized in concealment, he was actually able to severely injure him in such a short period of time. Crack! Boom! At the same time that Hu Dongbei severely injured Demon Sun, when Shujin had also gained the upper hand against her opponent, the Red Lotus Venerable. In midair, several ice-blue flowers suddenly merged into one and turned into a huge ice-blue pillar of light, shuttling between the blood-colored lotuses and freezing them. Immediately, every blood-colored lotus flower emitted a sound like glass shattering. In the end, the 7 blood-colored lotuses shattered like glasses, leaving only one of them flying back into the Red Lotus Venerable's hand. Even so, the blood-colored lotus that flew back was already dim. It was obvious that it had suffered irreversible damage. As for the Red Lotus Venerable, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, the other Golden Core demonic cultivators who were fighting Li Mingkang and the others panicked. One of the young men with an incomparably demonic appearance suddenly left the battlefield and fled towards the depths of the demon cave. His actions seemed to have triggered a chain reaction. Not only the Red Lotus Venerable and Demon Sun, even the sinister-looking man who was fighting Gu Yuefeng also abandoned the battlefield and rushed into the deepest part of the demon cave. They would definitely fall into a trap if they pursued, but so what? Since they dared to come, they had already thought of a countermeasure. Therefore, in the next second, Hu Dongbei, Gu Yuefeng, Li Mingkang, Wen Shujin, Taoist Kun Su, and Taoist Hai Zhen immediately chased in the direction where the Golden Core demonic cultivators fled. However, before they chased after them, they did not forget to remind Jiang Chengxuan and the others to eliminate all the remaining demonic cultivators before catching up. It wasn't that they wanted Jiang Chengxuan and the others to participate in the subsequent Golden Core battle. It was because there were definitely many more demonic cultivators below the Golden Core hidden in the deepest part of the demon cave. And the mission of cleaning all these demonic cultivators would fall on Jiang Chengxuan and the others. At this moment, after the bombardment of the array flags just now, there were actually not many demonic cultivators left. Jiang Chengxuan and the others did not spend much time killing them. A few hours later, Jiang Chengxuan and the other cultivators finally caught up to their Golden Core seniors. At this moment, a new round of battle had begun. Moreover, the intensity of the battle this time was clearly more intense than before. Everyone seemed to have gone all out. However, this time, Jiang Chengxuan and the others did not place their attention on the battle between the Golden Cores. Instead, they focused on a red blood pool in the distance. There, hundreds and thousands of low-level demonic cultivators seemed to have lost their minds and began to jump into the blood pool. Soon, their figures were swallowed by the blood. Then, an inexplicably terrifying aura quickly emitted from the blood pool. One could clearly sense that every time a low-level demonic cultivator jumped into the blood pool, the aura in the blood pool would increase slightly. Everyone, kill those demonic cultivators. We can't let them all jump into the Red Lotus blood pool. At this moment, Hu Dongbei shouted at Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Jiang Chengxuan instinctively felt that if those low-level demonic cultivators all jumped into the red blood pool, something terrifying might happen. Therefore, in the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan and the others did not hesitate and charged at the low-level demonic cultivators. Seeing this, the Red Lotus Venerable shouted, "Stop them!" Then Jiang Chengxuan and the others saw 200 to 300 demonic cultivators suddenly rush out from the shadows. Their cultivation levels were at least at the foundation establishment. The highest was even at the 9th level of the Violet Palace. At this point in time, both parties realized that things had come to a deciding moment. Thus, at the moment of collision, the fight quickly escalated into a full-scale war. In an instant, 7 to 8 foundation establishment cultivators died on the spot. As time passed, the situation where Violet Palace cultivators fell became increasingly frequent. Even Yu Chengsheng, Huang Yao, and the others might have died in this battle if not for Jiang Chengxuan's timely help. Danger lurked everywhere. "Oh no!" Suddenly, a cultivator exclaimed. "The effect of the Crimson Sun pill in my body seems to have begun to decrease." As soon as he finished speaking, the other cultivators also realized this problem. Their faces were immediately wrought with worry. This was because they knew very well what it meant for the Crimson Sun pill to lose effect. Before that, they had to end the battle as soon as possible. Otherwise, the longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan obviously realized this too. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly took a deep breath and took a step forward. A third-level Violet Palace demonic cultivator closest to him instantly felt a terrifying pressure pressing down on him. This shocked him. Without any time to think, he raised his hand and took out a drum made of human skin. There was a thud. The human skin drum let out a muffled sound. Immediately after, a fist with brilliant golden flames immediately smashed fiercely onto the human skin drum, piercing right through the middle of it. The third-level Violet Palace demonic cultivator behind the drum immediately revealed an extremely incredulous expression. Then the incredulous expression on his face turned to fear as he shouted, "Saint, save me!" Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan's fist landed on him. In an instant, his body, along with all the treasures on his body, blasted into a bloody mist. "You're courting death." It was only at this moment that an extremely angry voice came from behind Jiang Chengxuan. He turned around to find that a demonic cultivator at the 9th level of the Violet Palace was charging towards him. This put a tight frown on Jiang Chengxuan's face. No matter what, it was a demonic cultivator at the 9th level of the Violet Palace. Even if Jiang Chengxuan had the demon-suppressing fist technique that was effective against demonic cultivators and the ability to resist the demonic qi, he could not afford to be careless at all. Therefore, without hesitation, he activated his body-tempering cultivation and the dragon-elephant divine power to the fullest. The phantom of a dragon and an elephant appeared behind him. There was a rumble. He also took out the black gold iron rod and added the power of the demon-suppressing fist technique to it to face the red demonic sword that the 9th level Violet Palace demonic cultivator slashed at him. Boom! The terrifying collision caused a shockwave to spread in all directions with the rod and sword as the center. The cultivators, both the righteous and the demonic, retreated to a safe distance, afraid of getting injured by the shockwave. Huang Yao, Hui Lion, Taoist Cheng Yuan, Yu Chengsheng, and the others were dumbfounded to discover such terrifying strength hidden in Jiang Chengxuan. Swiss! Jiang Chengxuan's figure flashed and flew back. The Red Lotus Saint also retreated. Obviously, in the collision just now, neither of them had an advantage. Jiang Chengxuan did not think much of it. However, the expression of the Red Lotus Saint suddenly darkened. As the Saint of the Crimson Lotus branch and a demonic cultivator at the 9th level of the Violet Palace, he did not gain any advantage in the battle with Jiang Chengxuan, who was only at the 5th level of the Violet Palace. This was clearly something he could not accept. Therefore, in the next moment, a burning red lotus suddenly appeared in his hand. This was the divine power of the Crimson Lotus branch, called the Blazing Flame Lotus. As long as one was touched by it, they would not be able to escape. It would only stop when your body and soul were burnt to ashes. It was also a very vicious and cruel demonic divine power. Seeing the blazing flame lotus rushing towards him, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes suddenly narrowed. The dark golden rod in his hand was suddenly wrapped in golden light. Immediately after, aided by the enormous power of the dragon-elephant divine power, the rod was swung at the blazing flame lotus. Rumble! A huge mushroom cloud suddenly rose in the air. The lotus exploded, turning into sparks and landing on Jiang Chengxuan's body before quickly extinguishing. As for Jiang Chengxuan, he was unscathed. How is that possible? The Red Lotus Saint was shocked. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan's figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, the dark golden iron rod collided with the Red Lotus Saint's demonic sword. Meanwhile, his eyes suddenly lit up with a golden light. The burning sun arrow that specialized in attacking the soul was used. In an instant, an arrow that was as blazing as the sun swooshed into the Red Lotus Saint's sea of consciousness, making him scream. Dark red blood flowed out of his eyes and nostrils. As for Jiang Chengxuan, he forcefully endured the shock of the collision. The dark golden iron rod in his hand transformed into countless rod shadows in the air. In the end, all these rod shadows merged into one and smashed down ruthlessly on the Red Lotus Saint's head. Boom! The Red Lotus Saint's head exploded like a rotten watermelon. However, what made Jiang Chengxuan puzzled was that the Red Lotus Saint's life aura did not disappear. The headless body of the Red Lotus Saint suddenly disappeared like a melted candle. When he reappeared, he was already several kilometers away. However, at this moment, his face was extremely pale, and he was clearly in a bad state. Only then did Jiang Chengxuan realize that the Red Lotus Saint must have used a life-saving trump talisman to escape that fatal blow. Jiang Chengxuan quickly pulled his wandering thoughts back and disappeared from the spot again. At the same time, his intrinsic dharma treasure, the golden void sword, had already quietly snuck up behind the red lotus saint. Since I can kill you once, I can kill you a second time. As this thought flashed through his mind, the dark golden rod that was enhanced by the fist intent of the demon-suppressing fist technique appeared in front of the red lotus saint again. This made his heart skip a beat. There was no time to think. A huge seal decorated with skulls suddenly appeared above his head. Gray lights immediately spewed out of the mouths of the skulls. There was a series of bangs. The gray lights immediately dissipated upon touching Chengxuan's rod. With the final bang, the rod smashed into the skull seal, causing it to let out a wail and lose its spiritual light. Arg! At the same time, the red lotus saint spat out a mouthful of blood. On instinct, he turned around and retreated crazily. Unexpectedly, he smashed head-on into the golden void sword that was already behind him. Swish! The golden void sword pierced through the red lotus saint's body. The red lotus saint's eyes widened, unable to accept his pending doom. You! Just as the red lotus saint began to speak, Jiang Chengxuan's rod descended again. The red lotus saint could not escape this time. His entire body and soul were smashed into nothingness by Jiang Chengxuan's rod. The moment the red lotus saint died, the red lotus venerable who was fighting Wen Shujun and Hu Dongbai burst into a rage. He glanced at Jiang Chengxuan with a terrifyingly cold gaze. You dare to be distracted when fighting me? Wen Shujun's cold voice suddenly sounded. Then Hu Dongbai's laughter sounded. Ha ha ha, well done, fellow Taoist Jiang. Go on and kill them all. Don't worry about these golden core demonic cultivators. Leave them to us. As soon as he finished speaking, the silver-white sword in front of Hu Dongbai suddenly emitted brilliant lights. Standing opposite him, Demon Sun was suddenly overwhelmed with an ominous feeling. However, before he could do anything, the silver-white sword had already turned hundreds of feet long and slashed down his head. For a moment, the entire demon cave was lit up by the brilliant light, and even the density of the demonic chi here was reduced greatly. Demon Sun was sent flying back, blood spewing out of his mouth. There was a huge hole in his chest and abdomen. If it was an ordinary cultivator or even a Violet Palace cultivator, they would most likely die from such injuries. However, golden core cultivators had extraordinary tolerance to injuries. Even after suffering such a degree of injury, his body did not show any signs of dying. Instead, under the effect of his golden core, it began to quickly heal. Unfortunately, Hu Dongbai would not give him enough time to heal. Today, between him and this golden core demonic cultivator, one had to die. Rumble! As the silver-white sword slashed down again, on the other side of the battlefield, Jiang Chengxuan and the others were engaged in another round of fight with the demonic cultivators. At this moment, the righteous clearly had the upper hand over the demonic. Especially after the death of the Red Lotus Saint, there were almost no demonic cultivators who could survive under the demon-suppressing fist technique. 2. In addition, he had the Narcissus Jade, an intrinsic dharma treasure that could replenish his dharmic power. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan did not have to worry about whether his dharmic power would run out. The demonic cultivators no longer posed any threat to them. They were either killed or forced back. After they dealt with the demonic cultivators, they began to target the blood pool. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire blood pool began to surge. Seeing this, the demonic youth turned to look at the Red Lotus Venerable and said anxiously, Red Lotus, how long do we have to wait? If we let these people destroy the blood pool, I'm afraid we won't be able to make a comeback this time. The demonic youth's words put a solemn look on the face of the Red Lotus Venerable. He was a little indignant. However, at the same time, he knew that if that blood pool was really destroyed by Jiang Chengxuan and the others, just like the demonic youth had said, they would probably not be able to make a comeback this time. At the thought of this, the Red Lotus Venerable finally stopped hesitating. He took out a blood-colored jade talisman from his body and crushed it. Buzz! In an instant, an extremely evil aura suddenly rose from the bottom of the blood pool. When Hu Dongbai and the others sensed this aura, their expressions changed slightly. Hu Dongbai suddenly shouted, Quick, leave quickly. The further the better. Jiang Chengxuan and the others clearly sensed the abnormal phenomenon taking place in the blood pool. After hearing Hu Dongbai's warning, they turned around and left without hesitation. Roar! However, at this moment, an unusually terrifying roar came from the bottom of the blood pool, causing some of the people who were escaping to freeze on the spot. A huge blood-colored claw that was like a small mountain suddenly reached out from the blood pool. There was a series of pops. Those who froze in midair were actually crushed into a bloody mess by the huge blood-colored claw. Screams tore through the air. Jiang Chengshuan and the others, who were flying into the distance with all their might, sensed the terrifying aura behind them and their expressions changed. What the hell is that? Evil creature, how dare you? Hu Dongbai shouted angrily. Then Hu Dongbai pointed at his glabella. Buzz! The silver-white sword in front of him suddenly burst out with tens of thousands of sword lights, condensing into an enormous sword chi and pointing straight ahead. Swish! The defensive Dharma treasure in front of Demon Sun, who was in the middle, was immediately sent flying. Then, the power of the sword chi did not decrease at all. Under Demon Sun's extremely shocked gaze, the sword chi swept past his body and cut him into two. Then, the sword chi continued forward, piercing through the blood-colored claw that reached out of the blood pool. Roar! With a furious roar, a huge bloody hole appeared on the surface of the blood-colored claw, causing it to immediately stop trying to grab Jiang Chengshuan and the others. The Red Lotus Venerable, the demonic youth, and the other golden core demonic cultivators all looked at Hu Dongbai in shock, finding it hard to believe that not only did Hu Dongbai kill Demon Sun, but he also injured the blood-colored claw at the same time with a single strike. This guy had actually been hiding his cultivation all along. This thought immediately surfaced in their minds. At this moment, a golden core surrounded by demonic chi immediately floated out of Demon Sun's corpse and fled into the distance. However, before the golden core could escape far, a domineering sword chi that was like a meteor faced it from the opposite side. An earth-shattering rumble sounded as the golden core and the sword chi collided. Amidst the rising dust, the final indignant roar of Demon Sun was heard. Hu Dongbai, I hate you. One curse you to die a horrible death. The death of Demon Sun caused the Red Lotus Venerable and the others to panic. Fortunately, at this moment, large waves of blood suddenly surged into the sky from the blood pool. Immediately after, an extremely ferocious monster that was hundreds of feet tall and looked like a giant appeared in front of everyone. Halasa! Seeing the blood-colored giant appear, the Red Lotus Venerable, the demonic youth, and the other golden core demonic cultivators laughed smugly. The Red Lotus demonic golem has already awakened. Now, let's see what you have up your sleeve to fight against us. As soon as he finished speaking, the Red Lotus demonic golem, which was originally looking at Jiang Chengshuan and the others, suddenly turned its head 180 degrees and looked straight at Hu Dongbai and the others. Swish, swish. An incomparably terrifying blood-colored pillar of light shot out from its eyes towards Hu Dongbai and the others. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying explosion was like a nuclear bomb that instantly forced Hu Dongbai and the others to retreat. The layers of protective treasures they summoned shattered under the explosive impact. In the end, they took out their intrinsic Dharma treasures together and barely offset the terrifying explosion. At this moment, the expressions of the six people became unprecedentedly solemn. They could clearly sense that the strength of the Red Lotus demonic golem had already surpassed all of them. If they fought alone, none of them would be a match for the Red Lotus demonic golem. Not to mention that there was still the Red Lotus Venerable, and the others seeking every chance to launch a sneak attack. It seemed that it was time to use that thing now. At the thought of this, everyone turned to look at Gu Yuefeng. Gu Yuefeng nodded slightly. Then he took out a rusty iron sword from his body. The iron sword looked ordinary, even inferior to a sword in the mortal world. However, when holding this sword, Gu Yuefeng's aura changed. It was hard to describe what it felt like, but it gave people the feeling that the current Gu Yuefeng was fundamentally different from the previous Gu Yuefeng. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, a faint spiritual light appeared on the surface of the iron sword. When Hu Dongbai, Li Mingkong, Wen Shujun, Taoist Kun Su, and Taoist Haijin saw this, they did not hesitate at all and pressed their hands on the iron sword, injecting their dharmic power into it at the same time. The spiritual light on the surface of the originally rusty and inconspicuous iron sword became denser. In the end, the entire iron sword was covered with a jade luster, emitting a vast aura. This gave the demonic cultivators a bad feeling. However, before they could react, Gu Yuefeng, who was holding the iron sword, had already taken a step forward to face the red lotus demonic golem. He slowly spat out a word. Slash. Swoosh. In the next moment, the iron sword flew out of his hand and shot towards the red lotus demonic golem's glabella at a speed that even escaped the divine sense of the golden core. Roar! Sensing the threat, the red lotus demonic golem let out a roar. In its eyes and on its huge palms, blazing blood-colored pillars of light shot out to meet the iron sword. A series of sizzling sounds could be heard. The blood-colored pillars of light shot out by the red lotus demonic golem were all dimmed by the flying iron sword. In the end, the iron sword passed through the layers of defense around the red lotus demonic golem and came out from the back of its head. The demonic youth was taken aback. How is this possible? Whoosh! Suddenly, the huge red lotus demonic golem's body scattered into countless blood-colored threads that were swimming in the air. Strange demonic runes flickered. A moment later, the threads conjoined, forming the body of the red lotus demonic golem again. However, this time, be it the size or the aura, it was clearly much weaker than before. Seeing this, the eyes of Gu Yuefeng and the others narrowed into dangerous slits. Gu Yuefeng slowly spat out a word. Again. With that, he injected his dharmic power into the iron sword again. Seeing this, Hu Dambai and the others only hesitated for a moment before quickly pressing their hands on the iron sword. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The jade luster appeared again on the dimming iron word. With a speed undetectable to the divine sense of the golden core, it zipped towards the red lotus demonic golem. Damn it! Seeing this, the red lotus venerable and the others cursed under their breath. However, they did not dare to try to stop the iron sword. With an undying body, even the red lotus demonic golem couldn't withstand the iron sword, let alone the others. Now, they could only hope that Gu Yuefeng and the others would not have enough power left to activate the iron sword for the third time. As a matter of fact, many of the meridians in Gu Yuefeng's body had already been damaged. However, he managed to remain calm and collected despite suffering from agony. Thinking about it, it made sense. How could such a powerful attack not cost anything? However, they would not easily let the red lotus venerable discover it until the last moment. Boom! Under the attack of the iron sword, the red lotus demonic golem dissipated again. This time, the time it took to take shape was clearly longer than before, and its size was much smaller. In terms of aura, it was no different from an ordinary golden core cultivator. However, what shocked Red Lotus Venerable and the others was that, at this moment, Gu Yuefeng actually used the iron sword for the third time. The iron sword that emitted a jade-like luster shot out again. There was a series of bangs. All the defenses around Red Lotus demonic golem were shattered one by one. Finally, with the last swish, the iron sword entered the Red Lotus demonic golem's glabella, obliterating it for the last time. From then on, Red Lotus demonic golem completely died and could not recover. There was no time to lose. After giving Gu Yuefeng a furious look, Red Lotus Venerable and the others prepared to escape. However, what they did not expect was that the power of the iron sword that had just killed the Red Lotus demonic golem did not completely disappear. Instead, it turned in the air and aimed at them. This sent a shudder down their spines. The demonic youth's eyes were filled with fear for the first time. After all, they had all witnessed the power of the iron sword for themselves. If they were hit, none of them could say for certain if they could survive. Seeing the iron sword approach rapidly, the Red Lotus Venerable and the others immediately suppressed their urge to escape. Instead, they took out their intrinsic demonic treasures, ready to defend. Bang, 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 bang. Huge explosions erupted one after another. The demonic treasures they took out were all sent flying. Then the iron sword continued forward. The bodies of the Red Lotus Venerable, the demonic youth, the sinister-looking man, and the others were all penetrated by the iron sword. On the spot, the demonic youth's body and his golden core exploded. The Red Lotus Venerable was slightly better. His body blew up, but his golden core quickly fled into the distance. On the other hand, the sinister-looking man was undoubtedly the strongest among them. Although his body was penetrated by the iron sword, he was only severely injured. Just like the Red Lotus Venerable, he did not stay any longer. A dense blood fog suddenly rose around his body, and he turned into a blood-colored streak of light and quickly fled to the outside world. Seeing this, Hu Dongbei and the others looked at each other and did not hesitate at all. Other than Gu Yuefeng, who stayed to recuperate, the others all chased in the direction that Red Lotus Venerable had fled. Jiang Chengxuan and the others, who watched the entire fight from a safe distance, could not help but be shocked. They really did not expect Gu Yuefeng to have such a powerful trump card. Facing the Red Lotus demonic golem that was clearly above the golden core, they could actually kill it so easily. Against the iron sword, the golden core demonic cultivators were helpless. But thinking about it, it made sense. Without such a trump card, they wouldn't have waded into the nest of these demonic cultivators so resolutely. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and the others hurriedly came to Gu Yuefeng's side to protect him. In the battle just now, as the holder of the iron sword, Gu Yuefeng suffered a huge backlash. Gu Yuefeng nodded at Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Then he took out a healing pill and swallowed it. About a few hours later, Hu Dongbei and the others, who had gone to chase after the escaping demonic cultivators, finally returned. Other than Demon Sun and the demonic youth who had died previously, the Red Lotus Venerable and the hook-nosed demonic cultivator both died in their hands. Only Wang Tiansheng, the sinister-looking man, escaped. However, he was also seriously injured. Without dozens or even hundreds of years of recuperation, it was impossible for him to recover, and he would not be a threat to the righteous path in the upcoming battle against the demon beast riot. At this moment, everyone looked at a large array that was constantly condensing demonic qi in the distance. This array was also the source of demonic qi here. A Violet Palace cultivator from the Heavenly Yue sect asked, "Ancestor Li, Ancestor Wen, could that be the demonic qi gathering array?" Hearing his question, Li Mingkong and Wen Shujin nodded. Li Mingkong said, "That's right. This array is indeed the most notorious array in the demonic sect called the demonic qi gathering array. It can easily drain the vitality of a place and turn it into a nest for the demonic cultivators. If not for the fact that the method to set up this array has long been lost, I'm afraid the Kangnan region, where the 5 nations are based, would have long been ruled by demonic cultivators." "That's serious." Everyone was dumbfounded. "That's right," Hu Dongbei chimed in. "It's said that this array came from an ancient demonic cultivator, but some said that this array came from another continent. Its exact origin is unknown. However, one thing is certain. With the strength of the 5 nations in the Kangnan region, we can't destroy this demonic qi gathering array." "What?" Hu Dongbei's words undoubtedly shocked Huang Yao and the other Violet Palace cultivators. If they could not break or destroy this array, wouldn't this place become a new nest for the demonic cultivators? As if he could read everyone's minds, Taoist Kun Su added, "With the current strength of the 5 nations of the Kangnan region, although we can't break this array, we can seal it to keep it from expanding." At this point, Taoist Kun Su seemed to know that his words might be confusing to the others, so he explained. "Although the area covered by this array is huge now, when it was first established, it only occupied an area of a few dozen square meters. If we do nothing about it, I reckon that in a few years, the affected area will multiply a dozen times." How could this be? These words left the mouths of many people agape. If the demonic qi gathering array had such a characteristic, wouldn't it mean that the Kangnan region would very likely be contaminated by demonic qi if it was left unsealed? At the thought of this, many people shuddered with fear. It was no wonder that the 5 nations of the Kangnan region, and even the entire 9 essences immortal cultivation world, were so bent on eliminating all the demonic cultivators. This was not only because the demonic cultivators were ruthless, but more because of the fact that their existence would hinder the righteous path from sealing the demonic qi gathering array. After all, the demonic cultivators and this demonic qi gathering array could be said to be interdependent. Demonic cultivators relied on the dense demonic qi from the demonic qi gathering array to cultivate. As for the demonic qi gathering array, it needed demonic cultivators to provide it with protection. After understanding this, Jiang Chengxuan and the others couldn't help but feel a little heavy. Unexpectedly, behind the demon beast riot, there was actually such a huge hidden threat the Kangnan region, and even the entire 9 essences immortal cultivation world. At this moment, Gu Yuefeng had finished healing. He stood up and nodded at Hu Dongbei and the other golden cores, indicating that he had recovered and could start to seal the array. Therefore, Hu Dongbei and the other golden cores no longer hesitated and immediately prepared to seal the array. However, before that, Hu Dongbei looked at Jiang Chengxuan and the others and said, "Everyone, there's no need for you to participate in the following matters. You can go out and wait. After we completely seal the array here, we will meet up with you." "Yes." Jiang Chengxuan and the others nodded. Then they flew out of the demon cave. After everyone left, Hu Dongbei looked at the people present and smiled. "Fellow Taoists, there's no time to lose. Let's begin." "All right." Gu Yuefeng, Li Mingkong, Wen Shujin, Taoist Kun Su, and Taoist Haizhen nodded solemnly. Then the 6 golden cores joined force to seal the demonic qi gathering array in front of them. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan and the others, who had returned to the outside world, could finally draw fresh air and heave a sigh of relief. This operation could be said to be extremely treacherous. If not for the fact that the 6 golden cores leading the team were powerful enough, the number of people who could come out alive this time would probably be less than 30%. However, even so, there were still many people who died tragically, including a few Violet Palace cultivators. Just as everyone was sighing in their hearts, an extremely violent fluctuation suddenly surged. Streams of demonic qi began to gravitate towards the demon cave. Soon, they could no longer sense any demonic qi in the area they were in. This put a relieved smile on Jiang Chengxuan and the others' faces. From the looks of it, Senior Hu and the others had made it. That was the truth. Without the obstruction of demonic cultivators of the same level, with the strength of Hu Dongbei and the other 5, it was not too difficult to seal a demonic qi gathering array of such scale. About half a day later, the fluctuation stopped. At the same time, Hu Dongbei, Gu Yuefeng, Li Mingkong, Wen Shujin, Taoist Kun Su, and Taoist Haizhen reappeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and the others. From the looks of it, they had succeeded. At that moment, the 6 golden cores did not say much. After letting their disciples board the treasure ships, they bid farewell to each other and quickly disappeared into the sky. A few days later, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Huang Yao, Taoist Cheng Yuan, Yu Chengsheng, and the others had already returned to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion with Hu Dongbei. During this battle, although there were many twists and turns, fortunately, they won in the end. Moreover, the gains were quite considerable. Now it was time to distribute the gains. At that moment, the list of treasures gained from the battle fell into the hands of everyone present. "Everyone take a look. Whatever you want, you can exchange it for the contributions you made in this battle." Hu Dongbei, the master of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, said to everyone present. Hearing his words, be it Jiang Chengxuan or the others, they all stood up and said, "Yes." Soon their gazes landed on the list in their hands. It had to be said that among cultivators of the equivalent realm, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had contributed the most in this battle. The first thing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan noticed was several high-grade level 3 treasures. Among them was the spiritual echo flower that they urgently needed. Previously, it was mentioned that this flower could be combined with the fire green wood vine and the water apricot fruit to refine a medicinal pill that could allow a Violet Palace cultivator to break through to the late stage. The water breakthrough pill. Next was a high-grade level 3 treasure ship. Under normal circumstances, such a treasure ship would not be sold on the market. It could only be obtained on an occasion like today. There was also a bottle of body-tempering medicine called the Heavenly Treasure Dew, and a piece of Violet Palace jade that any foundation establishment cultivator dreamed of. Other than that, there were also some other treasures of the same level. However, those treasures were not what Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan needed the most. With the contributions Jiang Chengxuan had obtained in this battle, there was not much left after exchanging for the spiritual echo flower, the high-grade level 3 treasure ship, and the bottle of Heavenly Treasure Dew. What was left was clearly not enough to exchange for the Violet Palace jade. Fortunately, Shen Ruyan was second to him in terms of contributions. She had the priority to exchange before anyone else. Therefore, without much hesitation, she used the contributions to exchange for the Violet Palace jade. After that, she also exchanged for a lightning crystal and some level 3 weapon refinement materials. From then on, the couple's contributions were almost used up. After everyone finished exchanging, many people did not stay in the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. After bowing and bidding farewell to Hu Dongbai, they left. Only a few people who were familiar with the cultivators of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion did not leave immediately. That included Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. In private, they found Hua Minjiu and asked her about the situation in the other two nations. When they set off for the Red Lotus Demon Cave that day, the Yun Nation and the Yan Nation also took action together. They just did not know how the operations of the two nations were going so far. At the mention of this question, Hua Minjiu's expression immediately turned solemn. This gave the couple a bad feeling. However, this was often the case in this world where the more you were afraid of something, the more likely it would happen. According to the information Hua Minjiu received, the operations of the Yun Nation and the Yan Nation were not as smooth as their Liang Nation. Especially the Yun Nation, they were backstabbed by a traitor. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were also familiar with this traitor. It was 7-star from the Starlight sect. He didn't have long to live. In order to extend his life, he decisively joined the demonic path and became the supreme elder of the Yellow Lotus branch. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to the cultivators of the Yun country who were participating in this operation. Who would have thought that a Golden Core Supreme Elder of one of the 3 largest sects of the Yun Nation would actually join forces with a demonic sect? This was difficult to accept for the citizens of the Yun Nation, especially the ones in the Starlight sect. As soon as this matter was exposed, the Starlight sect was faced with endless criticisms and suspicion. If not for the fact that the other Golden Core Supreme Elder of the Starlight sect, Sidu Zhan, had once joined forces with Hong Tianqi, Nangong Beijian, and the others to launch a sneak attack on the demon beasts and demonic cultivators, and even destroyed the physical body of a Golden Core demonic cultivator, the Shadow Demon, the situation of the Starlight sect in Yun Nation would be worse. At the moment, they did not have the latest news about the Yun Nation. They could only wait for the results. In comparison, the situation in the Yan Nation was slightly better. However, they also encountered some trouble. It was said that the strength of Green Lotus far exceeded their previous expectations. Both sides should still be in a state of deadlock. For the time being, there was no more news. After hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but feel heavy-hearted. From the looks of it, the situation of the Yun Nation and the Yan Nation was not particularly optimistic. Although they believed that the two nations would lose in the end, the price they would have to pay would probably far exceed their initial expectations. This would undoubtedly add a great pressure on them in the upcoming battle with the demon beasts. Hopefully, everything would go smoothly for them. Then, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not stay in the Jade Water Sword Pavilion any longer. After bidding farewell to Hua Minjiu, Gu Yuefeng, and Hu Dongbai, they returned to the Jiang family. As soon as he returned to the Jiang family, Jiang Chengxuan called Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao over to inquire the current situation of the family. Thank goodness. Nothing major happened in the family. Everything was operating in an orderly manner. Jiang Chengxuan also told the two of them the general situation of the operation. Even though they had already expected this, when Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao heard about this battle from Jiang Chengxuan, they were still extremely shocked. This kind of battle involving golden cores was indeed dangerous. Fortunately, their granduncle and grandaunt were fine. However, when they heard about the situation in the Yun Nation and the Yan Nation, they could not help but feel worried. If anything happened to the two nations, or if the high-level cultivators in the two nations were too severely injured, it would definitely have a huge impact on the demon beast riot. However, even if Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao were worried, there was nothing they could do. For now, they had to focus on themselves and think of a way to increase their strength. Jiang family too. At the thought of this, the two of them pulled their wandering thoughts back and focused on the item Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had brought back, Violet Palace Jade. This made Jiang Reni's eyes light up. No one knew better than him what the Violet Palace Jade meant to all Foundation establishment cultivators. With an additional 50% chance of advancement and a life-saving effect, it was definitely the best spiritual item to break through to the Violet Palace. He just did not know if his granduncle had any arrangements for that Violet Palace Jade. As if reading their minds, Jiang Chengxuan said to the two of them, "There's probably no need for me to introduce this thing, right? Tell me, do you have any suggestions about who one should give this to?" Jiang Reni said, "Granduncle, if nothing goes wrong, Elder Liu should be able to try to break through to the Violet Palace in the next 5 years. Moreover, she is also the one with the highest chance of becoming a Violet Palace cultivator in the Jiang family. If Granduncle also thinks so, we can give this Violet Palace Jade to her first. Oh. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were obviously surprised to hear that. Clearly, they did not expect Jiang Reni to resist the temptation of the Violet Palace Jade and recommend Liu Linglong to them instead of himself. As if knowing that was on Jiang Chengxuan's mind, Jiang Renai continued with a serious expression. Granduncle, Grandaunt. To be honest, one do want this Violet Palace Jade. However, one know even better that with my current situation, it will take at least 20 years for me to break through to the Violet Palace realm. Moreover, one know my aptitude very well. Even if I used the Violet Palace Jade to break through to the Violet Palace at that time, I was not completely confident that I could succeed. Most importantly, as the head of the Jiang family, one have to look at the big picture. One can't be selfish and rely on my relationship with Granduncle and Grandaunt. Therefore, one suggests that we give this Violet Palace Jade to Elder Liu. It's most suitable and beneficial to our Jiang family. These heartfelt words stunned Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. They originally thought that he would fight for the Jade for himself first, even if he could not use it for the time being. Unexpectedly, he had never even thought about it. He was only thinking about the interests of the entire family. This also gave them a new understanding of Jiang Reni's character. On the other hand, Jiang Rendao smiled bitterly with a shake of his head. Jiang Chengxuan immediately looked at him. "What's wrong, Rendao? Do you have any different opinions?" Hearing that, Jiang Rendao answered truthfully. "Granduncle, one don't have any opinions. I just feel a little sorry for my brother." Obviously, as his biological brother, Jiang Rendao knew his brother's character very well. Even though he hoped that his brother could get the Violet Palace Jade, in reality, he still chose to respect his brother's opinion. Even though he was already a Violet Palace cultivator, his respect for his brother did not decrease at all. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Then he seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but ask the two of them. "By the way, what do you think of Elder Liu?" Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao clearly did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to ask such a question. This stunned them, but soon the two of them understood why Jiang Chengxuan asked this. Jiang Reni said, "Granduncle, there's no doubt that Elder Liu is loyal to our Jiang family. When our Jiang family was in trouble, if she was disloyal, she would not have stayed with us. Moreover, Elder Liu grew up in the Jiang family. Her feelings for the Jiang family are as deep as ours. Otherwise, she would not have worked so hard for the Jiang family. In short, I am willing to swear on my Tao path in life that Elder Liu will never be disloyal to us or leave the Jiang family." Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other, their eyes revealing surprise. It had to be said that Jiang Reni's answer had moved them. This was not only because of Jiang Reni's character and the fact that he had vouched for Liu Linglong, but because they recalled the situation the Jiang family was in when they first saw them. In a life-threatening situation like that, Liu Linglong still tried to protect the Jiang family disciples and never thought of leaving. Just this alone was enough to prove that Liu Linglong deserved this Violet Palace Jade. Thinking of this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately nodded. "In that case, I'll give this Violet Palace Jade to Elder Liu. By the way..." At this point, Jiang Chengxuan took out a jade slip from his body and handed it to Jiang Reni with the Violet Palace Jade. "This records some of our insights when we broke through to the Violet Palace. You can hand it to Elder Liu later. Perhaps it will be of some help to her when she attempts to break through to the Violet Palace. Also..." At this point, Jiang Chengxuan paused for a moment and continued. "Next, your grandaunt and I will probably be in seclusion for a long time. If it was short, it would be 10 years. If it was long, it would probably last until the day before the Demon Beast riot. During this period, unless there's something very important, try not to disturb us, understand?" Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao didn't expect this seclusion to last for so long. However, when they thought of the upcoming Demon Beast riot in a few decades, they quickly understood. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were probably entering seclusion this time to prepare for the Demon Beast riot. At the thought of this, Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao nodded. Jiang Reni said, "Granduncle, Grandaunt, don't worry. If there's nothing important, we won't disturb you." After that, they talked about some other things. When they were almost done, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't ask the two brothers to stay any longer. After the two brothers left, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't waste any time and went to Shen Ruyan's cave abode. The main purpose of the couple's seclusion this time was to increase their cultivation. Therefore, the first thing they had to do was to refine some cultivation pills. The most important thing was naturally the water breakthrough pill. After all these years of practice, Jiang Chengxuan's alchemy had already steadily reached the high-grade level 2. Although he couldn't make level 3 pills yet, he could help Shen Ruyan refine some medicinal liquid needed for the refinement of level 3 pills. Moreover, assisting Shen Ruyan in refining pills and observing her refining process would be very beneficial to Jiang Chengxuan's alchemy skills. Therefore, whenever Shen Ruyan was making level 3 and above pills, Jiang Chengxuan would always be with her. At this moment, the couple had already taken out the water apricot fruit, the fire green wood vine, and the spiritual echo flower needed to refine the water breakthrough pill. The main reason why they did not use the water apricot fruit to exchange for the water breakthrough pill was that it was not worth it. The value of a water apricot fruit was far higher than the water breakthrough pill. Moreover, by gathering medicinal herbs and refining the water breakthrough pill themselves, the number of medicinal pills they obtained in the end would be far more than one. Therefore, unless it was necessary, they would not use a water apricot fruit to exchange for a water breakthrough pill. Dong, a furnace with 2 handles and 3 legs suddenly appeared in front of Shen Ruyan. This furnace was called the True Herb Furnace. It was a level 3 alchemy furnace that the Jiang family had bought for Shen Ruyan. When using it to refine pills, the final success rate and number of pills would be much higher than using an ordinary alchemy furnace. As Shen Ruyan activated the spiritual fire, the entire furnace emitted a blazing orange light. Then a fresh medicinal fragrance wafted out. This was a medicinal fragrance naturally produced by this furnace after refining medicinal pills countless times. It was said that there was once an alchemy grandmaster who used a level 1 pill furnace to refine pills. After decades, if not hundreds of years of accumulation, the level 1 pill furnace finally transformed into a level 5 pill furnace without adding any materials. This still remained a legend among the alchemists. Moreover, he confirmed to all alchemists that alchemy furnaces could complete the transformation of their grades through continuous refinement. Of course, under normal circumstances, everyone would still buy an alchemy furnace that matched their alchemy level. There were only a few who did what that alchemy grandmaster did. Unless you had formed a deep bond with your alchemy furnace, you wouldn't choose that path. Then the couple began to refine the most basic supplementary materials. This process lasted for about half a month. Half a month later, Shen Ruyan finally began to refine the water apricot fruit, the fire green wood vine, and the spiritual echo flower. Jiang Chengxuan helped out and observed Shen Ruyan's refining process at every stage. As the flames burned, 3 months passed quickly. On this day, Shen Ruyan raised her hands and quickly cast dozens of pill formation spells at the furnace. Buzz! As the furnace gently trembled, an extremely dense medicinal fragrance suddenly drifted out from the True Herb Furnace. Upon smelling this medicinal fragrance, a look of joy appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face, but it quickly turned solemn. He knew that the pill refinement had reached the most critical moment. If Shen Ruyan was not careful, there was a high chance that she would fail. Therefore, at this moment, he did not dare to make any noise. He even lowered his breathing. Shen Ruyan also had a look of unprecedented seriousness. She did not dare to be careless at all. Finally, another 3 days passed. As Shen Ruyan cast the last spell, the True Herb Furnace trembled again. With a clang, the lid of the True Herb Furnace burst open. Shen Ruyan immediately raised her hand. There was a whoosh. 5 light blue water breakthrough pills flew into a jade bottle that she had prepared in advance. Tempering 2. Having refined 5 perfect pills in one go, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but smile happily. Jiang Chengxuan, who was beside her, smiled and praised. Ruyan, if I remember correctly, you can only refine 2 water breakthrough pills normally with 1 water apricot fruit. At best, you can refine 3. But 5 is simply incredible. One admire you. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan didn't try to be humble, but she still smiled and shook her head. 5 pills are indeed not bad. However, compared to my attainments in my previous life, it still fell short. If I were to refine this in my previous life, one believe one would be able to produce at least 7 pills. Hee, did you forget something? Yang Chengxuan suddenly said with a smile. What is it? Shen Ruyan looked at him in confusion. Jiang Chengxuan said, what's the cultivation level in your previous life? What's your current cultivation level? How can the final outcome be the same when refining this water breakthrough pill with different cultivation levels? Shen Ruyan was stunned for a moment. Then she nodded with a smile. Husband, you're right. After all, my previous life is my previous life. That is in the past. The current me has unlimited potential in the future. There is indeed no need to compare. Thank you, husband. As she spoke, she handed the jade bottle containing the water breakthrough pills to Jiang Chengxuan. After that, the couple chatted for a while. Only then did Jiang Chengxuan bid farewell to Shen Ruyan and return to his cave abode. After this trip to the Red Lotus Demon Cave, Jiang Chengxuan had already accumulated enough at the 5th level of the Violet Palace. So, after returning to his cave abode, he immediately began to cultivate and tried to break through to the 6th level of the Violet Palace. This breakthrough was rather smooth, which was just as he had expected. Without spending much effort or time, Jiang Chengxuan advanced to the 6th level of the Violet Palace. He used more than 4 months to consolidate his current cultivation. Just as he was thinking about whether to temper his body or try to bring his alchemy to level 3, he and Shen Ruyan, who was in the cave abode beside him, received a message from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. The content was about the final outcome of this demon extermination operation in the Yun Nation and the Yan Nation. What made the couple relieved was that the final outcome of the two nations' operation was successful in the end, despite the many twists and turns along the way. Moreover, the Shen family that they were most concerned about did not seem to have suffered much. At least 5th granduncle, Shen Yuanlong, and their elder brother Shen Dayaming were safe and sound. That was enough. On the other hand, it was said that the Hong family had suffered a huge loss this time. 2 Violet Palace cultivators died in a row. Such a loss could already be considered huge for the Hong family that didn't have many Violet Palace cultivators. If not for the fact that they had a golden core ancestor, the Hong family might have lost some industries and resources. As long as that ancestor of the Hong family did not fall, no one would dare to touch the Hong family's interests. In addition to the above information, what Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan cared about the most was the Mount Shaoyang sect of Yan Nation. It was said that a Golden Core Supreme Elder in charge of leading the operation team this time had suffered almost irreversible damage in the battle with Green Lotus Venerable. According to the information, he probably could not last until the next Demon Beast riot. This was bad news for the 5 nations in the Kangnan region, especially the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations. Fortunately, there was still about 100 years before the next Demon Beast riot. It was possible that during this period, they could nurture another Golden Core cultivator. After reading all this information, Jiang Chengxuan did not waste any more time. He took out the heavenly treasure dew he had exchanged from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion that day and prepared to temper his body. Buzz! Jiang Chengxuan had just opened the bottle containing the heavenly treasure dew when he suddenly felt the bottle in his hand sink. This made his eyes narrow. As expected, as soon as the restriction on the jade bottle was lifted, the heavenly treasure dew immediately revealed its extraordinary nature as a body-tempering holy grail. Jiang Chengxuan roughly estimated. There were about 10 drops in total. Each drop weighed a total of 10,000 kilograms. If it was an ordinary body-tempering cultivator, they would not be able to consume such a spiritual item to assist in body tempering. The bones and organs in their body would probably not be able to withstand this heavy weight. However, Jiang Chengxuan was clearly different. With the infinite wheel he cultivated, 10,000 kilograms was within acceptable range. If I use it to cultivate, one might be able to speed up the progress of my body-tempering mission. Thinking of this, Jiang Chengxuan first calmed down. He then poured a drop from the jade bottle in his hand. This drop of heavenly treasure dew was about the size of a walnut and was all green. However, if one looked carefully, they could see flames, lightning, wind, swords, and various other strange phenomena inside it. After staring at the drop of heavenly treasure dew for a while, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. He raised his hand and swallowed it. Boom! Instantly, he felt as if a bomb had exploded in his body. The terrifying weight caused his bones, organs, and skin to emit cracking sounds. Jiang Chengxuan did not dare to be careless and immediately activated the infinite wheel. Soon, violent winds, lightning, flames, swords, and ice alternated on the surface of his body. Winds, lightning, flames, swords, and ice were wreaking havoc in the cultivation room he was in. There was a series of cracking sounds. The ground under his feet kept cracking, and then it was repaired by the restriction of the cave abode. At this moment, he felt like he was in a storm or a blazing sea of fire. His body was constantly attacked by all kinds of elements from the inside out. Gradually, the aura on his body began denser. His figure also increased slightly, and the bronze-colored muscles on his body bulged. Compared to before, he had already undergone a tremendous change. This was also something he had not expected before. Why do one feel like I'm going to develop into a Hulk? He glanced at the progress of the system mission. 24%. This immediately shocked him. Back then, he worked so hard to temper his body for so long, but he only managed to bring the mission progress to 14%. However, now, he had only taken a drop of the heavenly treasure due to assist him in body tempering, but the progress of the system mission had advanced by 10%. This effect did not disappoint him. Jiang Chengxuan sat up straight. Then he poured out another drop of heavenly treasure due from the jade bottle and swallowed it again. Boom! He felt like a bomb had exploded in his body again. All kinds of wind, flames, lightning, and other attributes attacked his body. Jiang Chengxuan quickly activated the infinite wheel. This time, before the phenomenon on his body disappeared, he poured out another drop of heavenly treasure due from the jade bottle and swallowed it. Advancement in strength. Just like that. By the time Jiang Chengxuan finished using all the heavenly treasure due, half a year had passed. In the past half a year, Jiang Chengxuan's body tempering cultivation kept improving. He had vaguely touched the threshold of the second level of the infinite wheel. As for his figure, he had grown from the height of a person to more than 3 meters tall. Moreover, his body was muscular and emitted a primitive and monstrous aura. In this state, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that his strength, speed, and reaction were several times stronger than before. He tried to use a low-grade level 3 Dharma treasure to hurt his body when a chain of dazzling sparks appeared on the surface of his body. His body was already immune to the attacks of low-grade level 3 Dharma treasures. Only Dharma treasures above the mid-grade level 3 could cause some slight damage to his current body. And this was before he broke through to the second level of the infinite wheel. He really did not know how strong his infinite wheel would be after breaking through to the second level. Looking at how much he had changed physically, Jiang Chengxuan smiled with a chuckle. When Shen Ruyan saw the current him, she would probably be shocked. It was not that he did not want his body to return to its original size, but he couldn't. Perhaps after my infinite wheel breaks through to the second level, there will be some changes. As he thought about it, Jiang Chengxuan checked his current system mission. After more than half a year of body tempering, his system mission progress had already reached 100%. At this moment, a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have completed 200 cultivations of body tempering technique. You have received 1 opportunity to temper your body with starlight and 1 celestial desolate stone. Opportunity to temper my body with starlight, celestial desolate stone. Seeing the rewards given by the system this time, Jiang Chengxuan was overcome with joy. As the name suggested, it was an opportunity to temper one's body, but with the power of starlight. Jiang Chengxuan would only know the exact effect after using it. As for the celestial desolate stone, it was a precious material for refining close combat Dharma treasures. Jiang Chengxuan could use it as the main material to refine the deep earth halberd in the future. In short, Jiang Chengxuan was very satisfied with the rewards from this system mission. At that moment, he no longer hesitated and directly used the opportunity to temper his body with starlight. Buzz! Starlight suddenly lit up in the cave abode where Jiang Chengxuan was, each carrying a trace of destructive aura. When they landed on Jiang Chengxuan's body, they instantly pierced through his seemingly powerful body. Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but groan in pain, his forehead immediately drenched in cold sweat. He did not expect the starlight body tempering to be so intense and painful. If I had known this would happen. Some thoughts flashed through his mind. He pulled himself together and tried to activate the infinite wheel. In an instant, the power of starlight that was originally wreaking havoc in his body suddenly emitted vitality after he began circulating the infinite wheel. It was completely different from the destructive aura released by the starlight previously. Sensing the sudden change in his body, Jiang Chengxuan seemed to have grasped something. At the same time, he quickened the circulation of the infinite wheel. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In just a moment, the destructive power of the starlight turned into wisps of vitality, quickly healing his originally mutilated body. At the same time, a stronger power than before suddenly erupted from his body. I see. Jiang Chengxuan was enlightened. However, at this moment, new starlight lit up in the cave abode he was in. Then the starlight instantly passed through Jiang Chengxuan's body at a speed that Jiang Chengxuan could not react to. Once again, bloody holes of varying sizes appeared on his body. Arg! The pain this time was clearly more intense than before. Even with Jiang Chengxuan's will, he could not help but cry out in pain. Without hesitation, he activated the infinite wheel at full strength. Buzz! A vitality that was even more surging than before suddenly erupted in his body, causing his injured body to quickly heal again. Just like that, the starlight lit up and extinguished and then lit up again. It went back and forth a total of 7 times. Pain, destruction, healing. If not for the fact that Jiang Chengxuan's mind was strong enough, and he knew the significance of this body-tempering opportunity to him, he would probably have given up. Crack. Finally, Jiang Chengxuan's persistence was rewarded. Inside his body, Jiang Chengxuan clearly heard the sound of a bottleneck being broken. Advancement in strength too. In an instant, a power that was countless times stronger than the previous 7 times burst out of his body. Under the effect of this power, his skin, muscles, bones, and internal organs were continuously tempered and compressed. It could be clearly seen that his body was finally starting to shrink. A few hours later, his body, which was originally more than 10 feet tall, had already returned to the size of a normal person. However, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that his strength and speed were many times better than before. He tried to clench his fists gently. Boom! A dull explosion immediately sounded in the cave abode, causing some of the restrictions to flicker. This was a constant state of his physical body, after using the starlight to temper his body and successfully breaking through to the second level of the infinite wheel. Ding! He took out another mid-grade level 3 Dharma treasure and tried to injure his body. When his body and the Dharma treasure collided, sparks flew out. It was already immune to mid-grade level 3 Dharma treasures. Only high-grade level 3 Dharma treasures could inflict pain on him when they were used to the full extent. However, if there was no subsequent attack, the injuries would quickly heal on their own. At this moment, one probably don't need to use any Dharma treasures or divine powers to fight the Red Lotus Saint from that day. If I use Dharma treasures and divine powers, especially the physical divine power. Boom! This thought had just flashed through his mind when the phantom of the heavenly dragon and elephant flashed behind him. Immediately after, his entire body began to change. His muscles bulged, and his figure quickly grew taller. The long hair behind his head grew to his waist, and he eventually became a giant that was nearly 30 feet tall. Compared to the beginning, it was 6 to 7 meters higher. However, be it strength, speed, defense, or even reaction, with his physical divine power on, he was several times stronger than his previous state. In this state, he was already confident enough to fight a false core cultivator. From this moment on, Jiang Chengxuan's strength had truly surpassed the Violet Palace and reached a new domain. If one have an intrinsic close combat Dharma treasure that is compatible with me, then my overall strength will probably go up another level. From the looks of it, one have to prioritize refining the deep earth halberd. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Jiang Chengxuan deactivated his physical divine power and returned to his usual state. Picking up the communication Jade talisman beside him, he sent a message to Jiang Reni and Jiang Rendao, who were outside, to collect all the materials needed to refine the deep earth halberd. After sending the message, Jiang Chengxuan calmed down again and began to think about what he was going to do next. Now that the body tempering mission had been completed, it was probably not so easy to improve again in a short period of time. In that case, the only thing he could do now was to either continue cultivating and try to increase his alchemy to level 3. Given that he had just broken through to the 6th level of the Violet Palace, it would probably take a long time to cultivate his current level to perfection. In that case, the only thing he could do now was to raise his alchemy level to level 3. At that time, with the system's style, it should give him the corresponding reward. After thinking it through, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. A high-grade level 2 furnace appeared in front of him. As the coal seam fire burned, Jiang Chengxuan had already taken out many level 2 spiritual herbs from his body. He wanted to warm up first and find a feel for it. Fortunately, both he and Shen Ruyan had prepared a lot of resources before they went into seclusion. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan did not have to worry too much about resources. Soon, he successfully refined a furnace of foundation establishment pills. There were 5 pills, each of excellent quality. Then, he continued to try to refine a few furnaces of mid-grade level 2 and high-grade level 2 pills. When he felt that it was about time, Jiang Chengxuan decisively took out a batch of level 3 spiritual herbs from his body. What he planned to refine next was also a relatively common level 3 pill. It was called the Essence Nurturing Pill that could help early-stage Violet Palace cultivators increase their dharmic power. However, after consuming this pill once, your body would build up quite a bit of resistance. Therefore, most early-stage Violet Palace cultivators could at most use 2 to 3 pills. Any more and the effect of the Essence Nurturing Pill would be greatly reduced. It would basically become useless. However, to many cultivators who had just entered the Violet Palace, the Essence Nurturing Pill was their first choice to increase their dharmic power. At this moment, advancement in Strength 3. Jiang Chengxuan had already purified all the herbs needed to refine the Essence Nurturing Pill. What was left was to refine these purified herbs and try to condense them into pills. During this process, the first thing to resolve was the repulsion between various herbs. On this, Jiang Chengxuan had already gained a lot of insights from countless alchemy practices in the past. Therefore, when he came to this step of refining pills, although he encountered some obstacles, it did not affect him much. A few days later, he had already condensed a ball of green medicinal liquid into the shape of several pills. However, at this moment, 2 of the pills suddenly trembled for some reason. Then they turned into a pile of ashes and disappeared. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan's expression did not change. He still controlled the furnace fire and cast several spells at the same time, trying to condense the remaining 2 pills. Unfortunately, just as he had already smoothed out the bumps on the surface of the 2 pills, the 2 pills suddenly seemed to be squeezed by some external force and exploded into ashes with a pop. Jiang Chengxuan let out a long sigh. However, he did not feel defeated. In fact, he never thought that he could succeed in one go. With this failure as an example, Jiang Chengxuan quickly understood the reason he failed. At that moment, he took out another batch of herbs needed to refine the Essence Nurturing Pill and prepared to continue the second attempt. A few days later, a clear medicinal fragrance suddenly wafted out from the pill furnace in front of Jiang Chengxuan. However, soon, this medicinal fragrance was tainted with a charred smell. After a while, the 2 essence-nurturing pills that had already taken shape in the pill furnace immediately turned into 2 black balls. He failed again. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes were calm. After this failure, he understood where the biggest problem lay. He lowered the temperature of the coal seam fire and took out another batch of herbs. Time passed slowly. About half a month later, a clear medicinal fragrance wafted out of the pill furnace in front of Jiang Chengxuan again. At first, this medicinal fragrance was not very strong, but as Jiang Chengxuan cast the pill formation spells, the concentration of the medicinal fragrance in the pill furnace was increasing. When this medicinal fragrance reached a certain point, one of the pills in the furnace suddenly turned yellow. Jiang Chengxuan ignored this. He continued to control the fire and finished the last pill in the furnace. Finally, several more hours passed. As Jiang Chengxuan cast the last pill formation spell into the furnace in front of him, one of the green pills finally stabilized. A pure pill fragrance slowly floated out of the furnace. Jiang Chengxuan raised his hand and slapped the lid of the furnace. With a swoosh, the green level 3 essence nurturing pill landed in Jiang Chengxuan's hand. It was not of high quality, but it wasn't bad either. Especially for a newbie like him who had just become a level 3 alchemist, it was already impressive that the first level 3 pill he made could reach this quality. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan quickly put away the essence-nurturing pill. At the same time, a familiar electronic voice sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have reached level 3 alchemy. You have obtained the pill formula for the poison-dispelling pill and an alchemy treasure, the pill ascension furnace. Yang Chengxuan was quite happy to see the two items rewarded by the system. First of all, the pill formula for the poison-dispelling pill was not an ordinary pill formula, but a pill formula that could cure all poisons in the world. Once it was successfully refined, not only could it detoxify all kinds of poison, but it could also detoxify the various pill poisons accumulated in the body from consuming pills. It was a kind of medicinal pill that could help cultivators wash away all the side effects a pill might bring. In addition, the upper limit of the pill's effect was usually one level higher. In other words, a level 3 poison-dispelling pill could at most cure level 4 poison. As for the pill ascension furnace, it was a pill furnace that could be upgraded as the alchemist leveled up. Moreover, the success rate of refining pills with this furnace would increase by about 10 to 30%. Immediately, Jiang Chengxuan took out the furnace. Then he took out another batch of medicinal herbs to refine the level 3 essence-nurturing pill. Just as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were busy with their own matters. In the outside world, as the third Violet Palace cultivator of the Jiang family, Jiang Rendao handed the Violet Palace Jade to Liu Linglong. At this moment, her cultivation had already reached the peak of the 9th level of the foundation establishment. The aura around her was harmonious, and her essence, qi, and spirit were in their perfect state. If she used the Violet Palace Jade, her chances of successfully breaking through to the Violet Palace would reach a whopping 60 to 70%. Looking at the Violet Palace Jade in her hand, Liu Linglong could not help but feel emotional. She looked at Jiang Rendao in front of her and said in an abnormally solemn tone, "Supreme Elder, don't worry. I will do my best this time and not let you down." "Good." A smile appeared on Jiang Rendao's face. He nodded at Liu Linglong. "Elder Liu, it's good that you have this thought in mind. No matter what, breaking through to the Violet Palace is a huge matter. It's best to be careful. However, Elder Liu, you don't have to feel too burdened. You just have to do your best and take it one step at a time." After saying that, he handed the breakthrough insights that Jiang Chengxuan had given him to Liu Linglong. "Elder Liu, these are some relevant insights recorded by Granduncle and the others when they advanced to the Violet Palace. Before you try to break through, you can read it." Liu Linglong clearly did not expect that other than the Violet Palace Jade, there would be such a big gift. With the help of the insights, the chances of her breaking through to the Violet Palace would undoubtedly increase greatly. She expressed her gratitude again. After returning to her cave abode, she immediately began to adjust her mind and state. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. This day, on the mountain peak where Liu Linglong's cave abode was, suddenly a large amount of spiritual qi gathered. A funnel-shaped spiritual qi vortex appeared above Liu Linglong's cave abode. Accompanying this was a surging spiritual pressure that began to pour out of Liu Linglong's cave abode. Sensing this aura and change, the elders of the Jiang family, who were discussing things, suddenly turned their gazes to Liu Linglong's cave abode. Everyone showed excitement on their faces. Without delay, they quickly left the meeting hall and flew towards Liu Linglong's cave abode. Just as they landed on the mountain peak, they were shocked to see that Jiang Rendao had already arrived before them. "Greetings, Supreme Elder." "Greetings, Ancestor Rendao." "Greetings, Third Uncle." Jiang Rendao nodded slightly at his eldest and second brothers. Then, he looked in the direction of Liu Linglong's cave abode. A solemn expression appeared on his face. As someone who had been there, Jiang Rendao knew very well that Liu Linglong's breakthrough was at the most critical moment. At this very moment, any mistake on her end could lead to failure. Hopefully, everything would go well for her. Just like that, half a day passed. Suddenly, a stronger spiritual pressure than before suddenly came from the cave abode where Liu Linglong was. The spiritual qi in the surroundings also became more active than before. "Rendao." Jiang Reni and Jiang Renchuan couldn't help but look at Jiang Rendao, their eyes revealing nervousness. "Jiang Rendi," I said, Eldest brother, second brother, don't worry. If I'm not wrong, Elder Liu has already reached the last step of breaking through. As long as she passes this step, our Jiang family will have another Violet Palace cultivator. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, a low rumble suddenly sounded. Immediately after, all the spiritual qi in the sky was sucked into Liu Linglong's cave abode. In less than 3 breaths, a spiritual pressure unique to Violet Palace cultivators came from the cave abode where Liu Linglong was. Seeing this phenomenon, everyone was delighted. Elder Liu has finally succeeded in breaking through. From then on, the Jiang family will have 4 Violet Palace cultivators. Crack. As these thoughts flashed through everyone's minds, the door of Liu Linglong's cave abode opened slowly. Liu Linglong, who was wearing a pink and white dress, had beautiful hair that draped over her shoulders, and her eyebrows were as beautiful as a painting. There was a red cinnabar dot between her eyebrows as she appeared in front of everyone. Congratulations, Elder Liu, on entering the Violet Palace. The golden core is within your reach. Immediately, the cultivators of the Jiang family, led by the family head, Jiang Reni, congratulated Liu Linglong. Jiang Rendao also cupped his fists and congratulated Liu Linglong. Elder Liu, congratulations. Thank you. Liu Linglong smiled and cupped her fists at Jiang Rendao. After successfully breaking through to the Violet Palace, Liu Linglong was clearly in a good mood. She wanted to talk to everyone for a while, but now was obviously not the time. Next, she had to consolidate her cultivation and learn to reign in her aura. Therefore, after a simple greeting, Liu Linglong prepared to return to the cave abode. However, at this moment, 2 spiritual lights suddenly flew over from the Qunaming Peak, where Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were. Within the 2 streaks of spiritual light were 2 items. One was a jade bottle, and the other an emerald green flying sword. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's voices sounded. Congratulations on breaking through to the Violet Palace, Elder Liu. One of the 2 items is a high-grade essence-nurturing pill, and the other is a low-grade level 3 Dharma treasure, the Mystic Azure Sword. Take it as congratulatory gifts from us. Liu Linglong caught the 2 items, and a hint of joy flashed across her beautiful face. It was undeniable that the 2 items given by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were what she needed the most at the moment. The former could greatly speed up the time she needed to consolidate her realm. The latter was an offensive weapon that she could use. It was not appropriate for her to continue using something like level 2 Dharma artifacts. At that moment, Liu Linglong put away the 2 items and bowed deeply in the direction of Qunaming Peak. Thank you, elders, for the treasures. I will definitely cultivate well to become stronger and protect the Jiang family. Good. A smiling voice sounded from Qunaming Peak. Soon the group gradually dispersed. Liu Linglong did not stay outside any longer. She returned to her cave abode. More than 10 years later. It had been almost 20 years since Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan entered seclusion. In these years, because of the additional Violet Palace cultivator, the Jiang family was developing steadily. The increase in the overall strength of the family would also result in the increase of the overall strength of the cultivators. At the moment, there were more than 20 people above the foundation establishment in the family. Although most of them were only at the early stage foundation establishment, if nothing went wrong, it would only be a matter of time before they advanced to the late stage. Of course, the most noteworthy change was on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. After all these years of seclusion, the couple had both advanced to the late stage Violet Palace. Jiang Chengxuan was at the 7th level, while Shen Ruyan was at the 8th. In addition, their intrinsic Dharma treasures, the Golden Void Sword and the 5 Lightning Immortal Slayer, had also been raised to high-grade level 3 in the past few years by using the materials their families had collected outside. It was not an exaggeration to say that, with their current strength, they could already fight false core cultivators. If they joined forces and fought with all their might, it was likely that they could fight a golden core head-on. At this moment, in a pavilion on Qunaming Peak, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan sat opposite each other. The 2 of them had not seen each other for nearly 20 years. Therefore, when they met, they talked a lot. Shen Ruyan said, "Husband, the family should have already gathered most of the materials you need to refine the 3rd intrinsic Dharma treasure, right?" Jiang Chengxuan nodded slightly. "It's about time. However, if I want to refine it into a high-grade level 3 intrinsic Dharma treasure, there might be a lack in some materials. The most important one is the false level 4 treasure, the Earth Source Crystal. This item is rare. After so many years of searching, the family hasn't been able to obtain one. If there is no other way, we can only go to the Shu Nation and the Zhang Nation to take a look. Hopefully, before the demon beast riot, one can refine the deep earth halberd. By the way, at this point, Jiang Chengxuan seemed to have thought of something and said to Shen Ruyan, "Wife, since we've already reached the late-stage Violet Palace, it's about time for us to be on the lookout for spiritual items to form the core." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan nodded in agreement. Indeed, it was about time to make some preparations for the core formation. After all, time waited for no one. It would be a little late to collect core formation spiritual items after reaching the 9th level of the Violet Palace. However, it was obviously not so easy to collect core formation spiritual items. They were rare and hard to find. Even if it appeared occasionally, it would be quickly sold out. After all, for many cultivators, forming a core was their greatest goal in life. For this, even if they had to go bankrupt or pay an enormous price, they would not hesitate. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan naturally wouldn't be so extreme. In fact, with their foundation, what they needed to form their core was not the most expensive core condensing pill or golden core pill, but some other natural spiritual items. Of course, if these two pills really appeared, they would definitely fight for it. Even if they did not use it, they could put it in the family's treasure vault for the later generations of the family to use. Just as the couple was talking about these things, Liu Linglong suddenly sent a message. They said that they had discovered a false level 4 weapon refinement material, the Earth Source Crystal, in the 100 treasures market of the Zhang Nation. However, the price proposed was too high, so they could not buy it for the time being. The other cultivators who were interested in this precious material were unable to take out anything of equivalent value. Therefore, this item was temporarily put on hold. However, it was only a matter of time before it was sold. Therefore, Liu Linglong's suggestion was that Jiang Chengxuan or Shen Ruyan come to the Zhang Nation personally to compete for the Earth Source Crystal. There was something Liu Linglong did not say but implied, which was that even if she was really lucky enough to obtain the Earth Source Crystal, she might not be able to bring it back. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan obviously knew this. Therefore, after confirming the information from Liu Linglong again, the couple immediately decided to go to the 100 treasure market of the Zhang Nation together. Going from the Liang Nation to the Zhang Nation was different from going to the Yun Nation or the Yan Nation. The distance between the two nations was an astronomical figure. If they planned to fly to the market, the Earth Source Crystal would probably have been bought by someone before they reached their destination. Fortunately, the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations had large teleportation arrays with the Shu and Zheng nations. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan planned to take the teleportation array to the Zheng nation. After that, they would fly to the 100 treasure market. At this moment, the couple sent a message to Jiang Rendao, telling him that they were going to the Zheng nation. Then they went to a teleportation array under the jurisdiction of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. However, when they arrived at the teleportation array, a few disciples of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion, who were in charge of guarding the teleportation array, told them that the teleportation array to the Zheng nation would not open for about half a month. This made the couple frown. If they were delayed for another half a month, they could forget about obtaining the Earth Source Crystal. Therefore, no matter what, they had to reach the 100 treasure market as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately looked at the disciples in charge of the teleportation array and said, "Young friends, can't you make an exception for us? We are willing to pay double the cost for using the teleportation array. How about that?" When they heard Jiang Chengxuan's words, they immediately looked troubled. It was really not something a small foundation establishment cultivator like them could decide. Even if Jiang Chengxuan was willing to pay double the teleportation fee, they did not dare to agree easily. Just as they were about to reject Jiang Chengxuan, a soft voice suddenly sounded in their ears. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, are you going to the Zheng nation?" The couple turned around to find that Hua Minjiu, who was wearing a light purple dress, was in front of them. The array guardians were shocked. Without another word, he immediately bowed to Hua Minjiu and said, "Greetings, Supreme Elder Hua." "Good." Hua Minjiu nodded slightly at them. Then she turned her gaze to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. Yes, we do want to take the teleportation array to the Zheng Nation. Unfortunately, we are told that it won't open for another half a month. I wonder if fellow Taoist Hua can help. The two of us are willing to pay double the spiritual stones needed to use the teleportation array. How's that? Hua Menju smiled. It's just using the teleportation array. What is the big deal? I'll get them to activate the teleportation array for you. As for the spiritual stones, don't mention it. If anything similar happens in the future, you can send me a message and 111 help you resolve it. As she spoke, Hua Menju turned to look at a female cultivator in a green dress and said, Xianxia, open the teleportation array for fellow Taoist Jiang and his Tao companion. When Xianxia heard this, she immediately bowed and said, yes. Soon, she activated the teleportation array with the other cultivators present. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately cupped their fists and thanked Hua Menju. Fellow Taoist Hua, thank you for this. When you are free, please come to the Jiang family so that we can entertain you with hospitality. Definitely. Hua Menju also smiled and cupped her fists. I wish you a safe trip. Okay, take care. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately stepped onto the teleportation array. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As soon as the two of them stepped onto the teleportation array, they felt a strong sense of weightlessness. Immediately after, a force wrapped around them and they quickly disappeared on the spot. When they reappeared, they had already arrived at the exit of another teleportation array. There were also a few Foundation establishment cultivators guarding this teleportation array. When they saw the teleportation array lit up and two figures walk out of it, they were first surprised, but they quickly reacted and immediately cupped their fists politely. Greetings, seniors. Seniors, I wonder if there's anything you need our help with. Looking up, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan quickly recognized that these people were wearing the clothes of a golden core sect called the Guanglin sect in the Zheng Nation. It was said that this sect was quite powerful, not inferior to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion of the Liang Nation. Most importantly, there were more than one or two golden core sects like the Guanglin sect in the Zheng and Shu nations. There were as many as 4 or 5. This was also why among the 5 nations of the Kangnan region, the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations were regarded as an entity, and the Shu and Zheng nations were regarded as an entity. It was not only because of the distance between them, but also because of the difference in strength between them. The land size and resources of both sides were on different levels. As far as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan knew, the Zheng nation was almost as large as the Liang and Yun nations combined. From this, it could be inferred that the cultivation resources in Zheng and Shu nations were definitely several times more than the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations. That won't be necessary. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan waved at the Foundation establishment cultivators in front of him. Then he left quickly with Shen Ruyan. Before coming, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already learned a lot about the cultivation world of the Zheng nation, including the route to the 100 Treasure Market. From their current location, the journey to the 100 Treasure Market was not too far. With their current strength, it would only take them half a day at most. As soon as they arrived at the 100 Treasure Market, the two of them saw Liu Linglong and a few Foundation establishment cultivators from the Jiang family already waiting for them at the entrance of the market. Seeing the two of them arrive, Liu Linglong and the others immediately went forward. After the two sides greeted each other, Liu Linglong said, Brother Jiang, Sister Shen, one just received news that the cultivator with the Earth Source Crystal is preparing to hold a small trade fair in the Jade restaurant he opened in 3 days. When the time comes, he will most likely take out that Earth Source Crystal for people to bid. Ever since more than 10 years ago. After Liu Linglong successfully broke through to the Violet Palace, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan asked her to change the way she addressed them. At first, Liu Linglong felt that it was not appropriate to call them brother and sister. However, the couple insisted, so Liu Linglong didn't refuse. Now the relationship between them was clearly much closer than before. Upon hearing Liu Linglong's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan frowned. Bidding the Earth Source Crystal in a trade fair would undoubtedly decrease the chance of them obtaining it. If they wanted to obtain it, they would probably have to pay a price more than what it was worth. Moreover, during this process, they might even offend some people. Is there any way to contact that fellow Taoist to let him sell the Earth Source crystal to us in private? It's okay if we have to pay a higher price. After careful consideration, Jiang Chengxuan thought that this was the best solution. In his opinion, the reason why the other party wanted to hold a trade fair was to sell the Earth Source crystal for a good price. Since this was the reason, there was naturally room for negotiation. As long as they could obtain the Earth Source crystal, even if they really had to pay a higher price, they didn't mind. However, Liu Linglong shook her head with a bitter smile. Brother Jiang, I'm afraid we can't do that. Why? Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were puzzled. A trace of doubt appeared on their faces. Liu Linglong continued, as far as I know, other than us, there are also some cultivators from golden core sects and families who want the Earth Source crystal in his hand. If he really sold the Earth Source crystal to us in private, he would undoubtedly offend those people. To him, this is clearly not worth it. It seems that he wants to sell the Earth Source crystal for a good price and avoid trouble at the same time. Upon hearing Liu Linglong's words, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but say, in that case, we can forget about that idea. It's basically impossible to obtain the Earth Source crystal in private. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan and the others did not stay any longer. Soon, under the lead of Liu Linglong and the others, they arrived at an inn that had been arranged beforehand. They were prepared to attend the small trade fair in 3 days. At the same time, 10 to 20 invitations were suddenly sent out from the Jade restaurant to many different places. Jiang Chengxuan also received an invitation from the other party. The content was the same as what Liu Linglong had said before. 3 days later, a small trade fair would be held at the Jade restaurant, and the host hoped that they could participate on time. Just like that, 3 days passed in a flash. This day, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Liu Linglong, and a few foundation establishment cultivators of the Jiang family went to the top floor of the Jade restaurant, where the small trade fair would be held. When Jiang Chengxuan and the others arrived, they realized that there were already more than 10 people here, most of them above the Violet Palace. Jiang Chengxuan and the others sat and waited. Gradually, more people came, but not too many. About 4 hours later, there were no more newcomers. Jiang Chengxuan took a look around and realized that there were less than 30 people qualified to participate in this trade fair. The scale could indeed be said to be a small trade fair. Hello. At this moment, a hearty laugh suddenly came from the door. Everyone immediately turned around to find a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes who looked to be in his 40s and had a stable cultivation level at the 9th level of the Violet Palace suddenly walked in. This person was the initiator of this small trade fair, and also the person who had the Earth Source crystal. It was Taoist Tong Hai from the primordial Yang Valley, one of the 4 golden core forces in the Zheng nation. He cupped his fists at everyone present and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoists, for giving me face and participating in the small trade fair I organized. Without further ado, let's begin." With that, Taoist Tong Hai shifted his gaze to a man in a brocade robe and said with a smile, "Young Marquis, how about we start with you?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's gazes immediately landed on the man in a brocade robe called Young Marquis. This man was called Shangyuan Sheng, the most beloved son of the Marquis of Dingyuan. He was not even 300 years old, but he was already at the 7th level of the Violet Palace. He was the junior with the highest chance of advancing to the Golden Core in the Shangyuan family. When he heard Taoist Tong Wanlai's words, he immediately laughed. Then he pushed out 2 beautiful women with graceful figures from behind him. Most importantly, the cultivation of these 2 women had reached the 7th level of the foundation establishment. At this moment, the young Marquis, Shangyuan Sheng, said, "Since Brother Tong Hai said so, one naturally won't stand on ceremony. Here, the 2 female servants at the late-stage foundation establishment are not only virgins, but they are also good at serving people. They are things I specially chose to exchange for treasures with fellow Taoists present. I wonder if any of you are interested. If there is, you can show me the treasure you have and give me a price. If I'm satisfied, these 2 female servants will be yours." Seeing the items that Shangyuan Sheng took out, many people present actually revealed interested expressions. Obviously, they were already used to such items. Only Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had a look of belief on their faces. Obviously, they did not expect that a cultivator could be traded and sold in the Zheng nation. Moreover, The two cultivators being sold were at the late-stage Foundation establishment. If such a thing happened in the Liang, Yun, or Yan nations, they would probably have long been labeled as demonic cultivators and be wanted by the entire nation. This was because this kind of thing was strictly forbidden by the three nations, at least on the surface. Even if you were the biological son of a golden core cultivator, it was no exception. But here, Yang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts sank. Oh, two female servants at the late-stage Foundation establishment. It just so happens that I need two late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators who can be used to test medicine. I'll use this purple-patterned essence pill to exchange for them. What do you think, young Marquis? At this moment, a long-bearded old man in a purple robe suddenly smiled and looked at Shengyu and Sheng. Hearing his words, the faces of the two Foundation establishment female servants behind Shengyu and Sheng turned extremely pale. Clearly, they knew very well how miserable their life would be if they really fell into the hands of that long-bearded old man. At that time, death would probably be an extravagant hope. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions turned ugly. As alchemists, they knew very well what the so-called pill testing was. Fortunately, at this moment, a pale-faced man suddenly spoke with a smile. Alchemist Lu Ming, you want to exchange for two female servants with just one purple-patterned essence pill. Aren't you being too stingy? Besides, what a waste to use such beautiful female servants to test pills. As he spoke, the pale-faced man turned to Shengyu and Sheng and smiled. Young Marquis, you know that I've never rejected such high-quality female slaves. This is a purple sun gem. Using it to exchange for your two female slaves should be enough to express my sincerity, right? As he spoke, the pale-faced man took out a stone that emitted a purple glow and was accompanied by waves of heat. Seeing the stone, Shengyu and Sheng immediately sat up straight. He stared at the purple sun gem for a while before a smile slowly appeared on his face. He nodded at the pale-faced man. Fellow Taoist Aoyang is indeed sincere. All right, these two female servants will be yours from now on, fellow Taoist Aoyang. Hehasa. As he laughed, the pale-faced man called Aoyang Chuan immediately opened his arms. Then the two beautiful female cultivators fell into his arms uncontrollably. Not only were the two female cultivators not happy, but they were even more terrified. This was because Aoyang Chuan was a well-known womanizer. In the past, countless female cultivators had been tortured to death by him. If the two of them fell into his hands, their outcome would not be much better than falling into alchemist Lu Ming's hands. Although Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan were disgusted by this trade, they had no intention of standing up for the two female cultivators. At the end of the day, they were here to compete for the Earth Source Crystal, not to meddle in other people's business. At this moment, another beautiful woman in palace clothes stood up. It was not difficult to guess from her calm expression that, even though she was also a female cultivator, she was used to what had just happened and did not look surprised at all. She took out two jade boxes from her body and opened them. Inside were a palm-sized yellow horn and a silver flower. The horn of a level 3 single-horned Pegasus and a level 3 brilliant star flower. She looked at everyone present and continued. If you have a glorious star pill or a level 3 metal element spiritual item, you can exchange it with me. Hearing her words, a few people immediately spoke. Fellow Taoist, I have a level 3 metal element heavenly water. I wonder if I can exchange it with you for the horn of that level 3 single-horned Pegasus. I have a pill that has the same effect as the glorious star pill. I wonder if one can exchange it for the brilliant star flower. Soon, the two items of the beautiful woman in palace clothes were quickly exchanged. Just like that, the trade fair proceeded in an orderly manner. It was finally Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan's turn. Jiang Chengshuan took out two items from his body. The two items were a jade bottle and a fist-sized red sandstone. The former was a medicinal pill commonly used by violet palace cultivators. It was called the Sea True Pill and was used to replenish the dharmic power consumed. The latter was a high-grade level 3 precious material, the red-yellow mystic sand, that could increase the power of fire element dharma treasures. At this moment, Jiang Chengshuan said, a bottle of Sea True Pills and a lump of red-yellow mystic sand. I don't think I need to say much about the value of these two things. My Tao companion, and I want to exchange for earth element treasures of the same quality and lightning element treasures. I wonder if anyone here has it. As soon as he said that, some of the people present couldn't help but size up him and Shen Ruyan. Then a cold-looking man took out a piece of jade that was surrounded by silver lightning. I wonder if one can exchange the high-grade level 3 Tay by Thunder Jade with you for the red-yellow mystic sand. A Tay by Thunder Jade. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately looked at the jade stone that the cold-looking man took out. Shen Ruyan shook her head. Your Tay by Thunder Jade is too small. If you want to exchange it, you need to add something else. Hearing this, the cold-looking man paused for a moment before saying, a piece of Tay by Thunder Jade and 50,000 spiritual stones. What do you think? Deal? Shen Ruyan nodded. Soon, both parties completed this deal. At this moment, Ouyang Chuan smiled and said, Fellow Taoist, why don't you exchange that bottle of sea true pills with me? I'll exchange this with you. Then, Ouyang Chuan took out a jade bottle from his body and opened it, revealing the earth's spiritual dew inside. And this thing was one of the main supplementary materials Jiang Chengxuan needed to refine the deep earth halberd. Neither Jiang Chengxuan nor Shen Ruyan had a good impression of someone like Ouyang Chuan, but this did not stop them from exchanging what they wanted. Jiang Chengxuan nodded and said, Sure. By the time the two of them finished trading, this small trade fair was almost at its end. Including Jiang Chengxuan, most of the people present turned to look at Taoist Tong Hai. Clearly, everyone was waiting for him to take out the last batch of items to be traded. Taoist Tong Hai also knew this very well. He smiled at everyone. Then he took out 3 things from his body. They were a crystal that emitted a heavy aura, a bottle of flawless white medicinal pills, and a yellow jade slip. Taoist Tong Hai said, the first one is Earth Source Crystal, the second one is a bottle of Cloud Rush Pill, and the third one is a mid-grade level 3 pill formula. There is no need for me to elaborate on the value of these 3 items. If you're interested, you can make a bid you deem fit. Of course, if you have any spiritual items that can be used to form a core, you can take all 3 of them. Spiritual item to form the core. Hearing that, everyone present smiled bitterly with a shake of their head. Obviously, they didn't take it to heart. Even if they really had a core formation spiritual item, they would not take it out. Alchemist Lu Ming was the first to speak. Fellow Taoist Tong Hai, may one ask what kind of pill formula is recorded in the mid-grade level 3 pill formula Jade Slip? Clearly, as an alchemist, Lu Ming was more interested in the pill formula. Taoist Tong Hai said, it's a breakthrough pill formula for small bottlenecks. If alchemist Lu Ming is interested, you can exchange it and study it. A breakthrough pill formula for small bottlenecks. Upon hearing this, alchemist Lu Ming was clearly tempted. He thought for a moment and took out several bottles of pills from his body. Then, he pushed them to Taoist Tong Hai. Fellow Taoist Tong Hai, you can take a look at these pills I refined. Are they enough to exchange for your pill formula? After taking the pills from alchemist Lu Ming, Taoist Tong Hai took a closer look and nodded at him. Sure. Alchemist Lu Ming was overjoyed. He took the jade slip and looked at it carefully. At the same time, everyone began to fight for the Earth Source Crystal and the bottle of Cloud Rush Pill. As a top-notch false level 4 Earth Element spiritual item, the value of the Earth Source Crystal was needless to say. The competition for the bottle of Cloud Rush Pills was also intense because it could help cultivators above the 7th level of the Violet Palace increase their dharmic power. In the end, the bottle of Cloud Rush Pills was exchanged by an 8th level Violet Palace cultivator from the Guanglin sect. After that, only the false level 4 Earth Source Crystal was left. At this moment, the young Marquis, Xianxia Sheng, said, Brother Tong Hai, I'll use a high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure and 200,000 spiritual stones to exchange for this Earth Source Crystal of yours. What do you think? As he spoke, he hurriedly took out a net-shaped Dharma treasure. From the appearance of this treasure, one could infer that it was used to trap and restrain the enemy. However, Taoist Tong Hai refrained from giving a prompt reply. After that, someone took out several spiritual items, precious materials, or Dharma treasures. However, Taoist Tong Hai had no intention of exchanging his Earth Source Crystal yet. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who had been silent, couldn't help but look at each other. At this moment, they both knew that if they wanted to exchange for the Earth Source Crystal from Taoist Tong Hai, they had to take out something really, really good. At the thought of this, the storage ring in Jiang Chengxuan's hand flashed. In the next moment, a jade box appeared in his hand. Seeing the jade box Jiang Chengxuan took out, everyone's attention was attracted. Taoist Tonghai was no exception. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and opened the jade box. In the jade box, there was a fruit that looked like a strawberry. It emitted a rich fragrance. When everyone smelled it, they looked intoxicated. This is cave vermilion fruit. Suddenly, someone recognized the identity of the spiritual fruit and could not help but exclaim in shock. This was a spiritual fruit that could strengthen a cultivator's soul. In the cultivation world, any spiritual item that could increase the strength of a cultivator's soul or primordial spirit was quite precious. This was also one of the spiritual resources that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had obtained from the secret treasure left behind by Shen Ruyan in her previous life. Moreover, it was the least precious one among them. At the moment, this fruit was no longer useful to Jiang Chengxuan or Shen Ruyan. However, they believed that this fruit was quite tempting to most late-stage or even ninth-level Violet Palace cultivators, although its value was slightly inferior to the false level for Earth Source Crystal. If Taoist Tonghai had the intention to increase the strength of his soul, he would definitely not miss such a treasure. Indeed, when Taoist Tonghai saw the cave vermilion fruit that Jiang Chengxuan took out, his eyes lit up with excitement. He immediately turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan and said hurriedly, "Fellow Taoist, can I take a closer look at the cave vermilion fruit you took out first?" Of course. Jiang Chengxuan was not afraid that he would run away with the fruit. He immediately pushed the jade box containing the cave vermilion fruit in front of Taoist Tonghai. Taoist Tonghai picked up the jade box and looked at it carefully. After a while, he closed the jade box and looked at Jiang Chengxuan. "Fellow Taoist, do you plan to use this cave vermilion fruit to exchange for the Earth Source Crystal?" "That's right." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "What do you think?" "Deal." Taoist Tonghai clearly had no intention of bargaining with Jiang Chengxuan. Compared to the Earth Source Crystal, this cave vermilion fruit was more important to him. In order to avoid any accidents, he immediately pushed the jade box containing the Earth Source Crystal to Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan was delighted. He did not expect this deal to go much smoother than he had expected. However, at this moment, the young Marquis, Xianxia Sheng, suddenly looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, "Fellow Taoist, to be honest, I'm actually very interested in the cave vermilion fruit you just traded away. I wonder if you have any more treasures that can strengthen the soul." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone turned to look at him. This made Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan frown. Jiang Chengxuan replied calmly, "Sorry, we only have one such treasure." "Is that so?" Xianxia Sheng nodded noncommittally and didn't say anything else. Just like that, the trade fair ended. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Liu Linglong didn't stay for long. After bidding farewell to Taoist Tonghai, they left the Jade restaurant. Looking at the departing figures of everyone, the young Marquis, Xianxia Sheng, who had yet to leave, suddenly looked at Taoist Tonghai, the host of this trade fair, and said, "Brother Tonghai, do you really believe that the two people just now didn't have any other spiritual items like the cave vermilion fruit?" Young Marquis, are you?" Taoist Tonghai suddenly narrowed his eyes. Xianxia Sheng chuckled and said, "Actually, it's nothing. I just want to see if I have the chance to obtain a spiritual item that can strengthen the soul. I wonder if Brother Tonghai is interested in coming with me to take a look." Upon hearing Xianxia Sheng's words, Yang Xuan, alchemist Lu Ming, and the others who were still present could not help but feel a little tempted. On the other hand, Taoist Tonghai shook his head decisively. "I'm sorry, young Marquis. One already have the cave vermilion fruit. I don't need a second one for the time being. Therefore, one will not partake in this." As the initiator of this trade fair, Taoist Tonghai knew very well how great the impact on his reputation would be if he really agreed to go with Xianxia Sheng. Perhaps from now on, no one would be willing to participate in the trade fair he organized. Of course, there were not enough benefits, which was also the main reason why Taoist Tonghai was unwilling to get involved. If he was 100% sure that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had core condensing pills and golden core formation spiritual items, then even if he had to throw away the reputation he had accumulated over the years, he would not hesitate. There was another reason why Taoist Tonghai was unwilling to accept Xianxia Sheng's suggestion, and that was the strength of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were at the 7th level and 8th level of the Violet Palace respectively. Not to mention the fact that Shen Ruyan, another Violet Palace cultivator of the Shen family, was beside them. Daoist Tong Hai did not think that it would be easy to take them down. Without paying a heavy price, it was impossible. To put it bluntly, the cons outweighed the pros. Daoist Tong Hai was not so stupid. Seeing that Daoist Tong Hai was determined, Shang Yuansheng had no choice but to give up. Daoist Tong Hai was not an existence he could control. Putting aside the fact that his cultivation was not as high as Daoist Tong Hai's, even in terms of background, Daoist Tong Hai, who came from one of the 4 golden core forces, the primordial Yang Valley, was not inferior to him at all. Just as Shang Yuansheng was about to give up on this plan, 2 voice transmissions suddenly sounded in his ears. They were from Aoyang Chuan and alchemist Lu Ming. After a while, the 3 of them left the Jade restaurant together. After leaving the Jade restaurant, Shang Yuansheng quickly sent a message. Soon, an old man at the 9th level of the Violet Palace appeared in front of Shang Yuansheng. He bowed to Shang Yuansheng and said respectfully, "Greetings, young Marquis." Shang Yuansheng waved his hand. "There's no need for the formalities, Elder Wang. By the way, have you done what I asked you to do just now?" Elder Wang nodded. "Don't worry, young Marquis. Now, I've already informed the various teleportation arrays in the market to not provide service for those people. Those people from Liang Nation won't be able to return through the teleportation arrays." "Well done." Shang Yuansheng nodded in satisfaction. "Next, we just have to wait." Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others looked at the teleportation arrays that were temporarily closed to the public with a frown. Was there really such a coincidence in this world? Just as they were about to return to Liang Nation through the teleportation array, they were told that the teleportation array to other nations was temporarily closed to the public. Was this an excuse or a method to deal with them? At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan concealed themselves. After waiting for a while, they saw other cultivators wanting to take the teleportation array. Just a moment ago, they were told that the teleportation array to other nations was temporarily closed, but now it was open for others. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrowed their eyes. At this point, even a fool would know that they were targeted. The only thing they could not be sure of was who was targeting them. Daoist Tong Hai. Or was it the young Marquis? Or was it someone else? They had never had a grudge against anyone or made any enemies in the Zheng Nation. The only possibility left was that someone wanted to kill them for the possessions. It was really unexpected that a mere cave vermilion fruit was enough to bring out the worst in people. At the same time, this also showed that the cultivation world of the Zheng Nation was much more chaotic than the Liang, Yun, and Yan nations. The law of the jungle where the strong preyed on the weak was vividly reflected. "Brother Jiang, Sister Shen, what should we do now?" Liu Linglong clearly realized their difficult situation. Her expression was troubled. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. Yang Chengxuan said, "Since they don't want us to leave this place, we might as well do as they wish. At most, we'll go to the Shu Nation first and take the teleportation array back to Liang Nation therein." Anyway, the Shu Nation was not far from the Zheng Nation. One don't believe that they can exert influence in the territory of the Shu Nation. In fact, Jiang Chengxuan left something unsaid. That was, he wanted to see who the person hiding behind the scenes was. With his and Shen Ruyan's current strength, they had nothing to be afraid of unless it was a golden core. Moreover, even if they were really unlucky to encounter a golden core, with their methods and trump cards, it was not completely impossible for them to escape unscathed. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan and the others arrived at the exit of the market. Then, Jiang Chengxuan took out a low-grade level 3 treasure ship from his body. After they all boarded the treasure ship, they quickly left the 100 treasure market. Not long after Jiang Chengxuan and the others left, 4 late-stage Violet Palace spiritual pressures disappeared from the 100 treasure market. They were Shang Yuansheng, Elder Wang, Aoyang Chuan, and alchemist Lu Ming. About 20 minutes later, Jiang Chengxuan and the others, who were driving the level 3 treasure ship, suddenly sensed something and could not help but turn around. There, 4 streaks of light were rapidly approaching their treasure ship. This made Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan narrow their eyes. Liu Linglong's expression changed drastically as she said, "It's them." "Yes." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not particularly surprised to see Shang Yu and Sheng, but the appearance of Elder Wang caught them off guard. However, they quickly reacted. From the looks of it, he should be a cultivator or a guest elder nurtured by the Shangyuan family. It seemed that Shangyuan Sheng was well prepared. A trace of coldness flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. He and Shen Ruyan looked at each other and made up their minds. At the same time, Shangyuan Sheng, Elder Wang, Yang Xuan, and alchemist Lu Ming were already approaching the treasure ship that Jiang Chengxuan and the others were on. Shangyuan Sheng was the first to speak. Since you have come to the Zheng nation, why are you in such a hurry to leave? I still have something to ask of you. Please help me. As he spoke, Shangyuan Sheng and the other three had already caught up to Jiang Chengxuan's treasure ship. Moreover, the four of them surrounded the treasure ship from four directions. Upon seeing this, Liu Linglong's beautiful eyes immediately revealed a hint of anger. She looked at Shangyuan Sheng and said coldly, "Young Marquis, is this attitude you are supposed to have when you are asking for help? Aren't you going overboard?" "Well," Shangyuan Sheng sized up Liu Linglong. He smiled faintly and said, I think you have misunderstood me. Whether one go overboard or not now is actually not up to me, but up to you." Before Liu Linglong or Jiang Chengxuan could speak, Shangyuan Sheng continued. "When we were at the trade fair just now, I saw that you seemed to have many treasures on you. Coincidentally, I lack a batch of cultivation resources recently, especially one that can strengthen the soul. If you are willing to part with your treasures and give them to me, one will apologize for my impudent behavior. What do you think?" To put it bluntly, he, Shangyuan Sheng, wanted to take what Jiang Chengxuan and the others had for free. Jiang Chengxuan sneered. "What if we don't have the things you want?" Jiang Chengxuan suddenly said. Hearing his words, Shangyuan Sheng's eyes narrowed slightly before he smiled. "Is that so? Then we will have to trouble you to hand over the storage rings in your hands to us for inspection. If there's nothing on you that we need, we'll let you leave. How about that? Handing over my storage ring for inspection." He actually has the cheeks to say that. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were no longer in the mood to talk nonsense with these guys. Their expressions turned cold as they slowly spat out two words. "Get lost." "What did you say?" These words put a frown on Shangyuan Sheng and the others' faces. Shangyuan Sheng could no longer be bothered to keep up his disguise and looked at Jiang Chengxuan and the others coldly. "You wanted to treat you nicely, but you wouldn't appreciate it. In that case, don't blame us for being rude." As soon as he finished speaking, he made a move. He raised his hand and waved. A spear with an orange surface suddenly charged towards Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Elder Wang, Yang Xuan, and alchemist Lu Ming, who were with him, did not stay idle and attacked at the same time. Elder Wang extended his hand. A long saber wrapped in lightning instantly slashed towards the level 3 treasure ship. Clearly, he had the intention to destroy the treasure shop first. As for Yang Xuan and alchemist Lu Ming, the former opened his mouth and spat. A flag with countless beautiful women drawn on it appeared in the air. The phantoms of enchanting women and men kept disturbing Jiang Chengxuan and the others, causing Liu Linglong's fair face to slowly turn red. Her breathing also became a little heavy. "Linglong, wake up." Crack! Suddenly, a thunderous sound appeared in Liu Linglong's ear, pulling her back to reality with a start.